West Orange, and welcome to the West Orange Township Council Budget Workshop for May 29th, 2025. We are coming to you from council chambers. As always, there is no comment permitted from the Zoom audience. You're welcome to join us in council chambers, but there will be no public comment during the budget workshop. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to our council president.
Thank you, Mr. Fagan. Welcome everybody to our third budget workshop for the 2025 municipal budget. I'm going to try to follow orders and defer to Madam Clerk.
Thank you, sir. This is to inform the general public that this workshop is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. The notice for this workshop was emailed to the West Orange Chronicle and the Star Ledger on May 23rd, 2025. Councilwoman Castellino?
Present.
Councilwoman Geber Michael?
Present.
Councilwoman Rudin?
Here.
Councilwoman Scarpa?
Present.
Council President Krokoviac?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I mentioned, this is our third workshop of the year. The draft budget from the mayor proposes to raise municipal property taxes by 6.2%. So we on the council are looking for efficiencies and savings to lower that increase. If you want to follow along, please go to the Township website, westorange.org. Use the search box in the upper right hand of the page. Type in the word budget, then click on the first result, budget, and you'll see the mayor's draft budget that we'll be working from tonight. We aren't taking public comment tonight. If you want to comment or ask questions, please send an email to council@westorange.org, which, despite what you may think, also goes to the mayor and several people in her administration. If you want to send just to the council, send it to one of us and ask for distribution to the rest of us. If you need email addresses, search for the word council on the township website. Recordings of the workshops are on the township website. You can find them by searching by video gallery. Two of our colleagues are zooming in tonight as they continue their convalescence and recovery. So Councilwoman Scarpa and Councilwoman Geber Michael will be here virtually, and we will try as efficiently as possible to make sure that they have an opportunity to ask questions and provide input. The proposed schedule of departments for review tonight, their budgets, police, fire, the township clerk, and then there's a to be determined if we have any time left over. Lastly, I urge everyone to consider time efficiency in their comments and questioning, as well as to speak into the microphone to be sure that what you say is necessary. The faster we carefully go through the budget, the better. Mr. Detiniak, who was the first? Looks like you're about to double team us.
So we have the police department here. They're going to be our first group to speak.
Please.
That's 59 in the budget book.
Councilwoman Capolino pointed out that if you're following along at home, it's page 59 of the budget. So welcome, gentlemen.
Council President, if you could just give me 1 minute, I'm trying to pull up our presentation so that, people at home can follow along. Maybe we have a lot of traffic on the website since you made the announcement because the website isn't loading correctly. So just bear with me 1 minute.
And just to make a public service announcement, we do schedule these, most of these workshops, if not all of them, to start at 6 p.m. And would just like to advise everybody here who's contributing to our budget process to please do everything you can to try to be here and ready to start at 6 o'clock. Still scrolling, Mr. Detiniak?
We'll scroll. Well, while I'm trying to bring the budget up, one of you gentlemen just speak about the department and, all the great things that West Orange PD has done and will continue to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Council.
And please start by just identifying yourselves because
Sure.
everybody knows who Chief Abbott is, but he is way far away. So please.
Yes, I'm Mike Kier, I'm Deputy Chief. Matt Fula, also Deputy Chief.
Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Just a quick overview of our department. Our current staffing, we have 95 sworn officers. That includes one officer who is currently in the academy. We are now processing 3 officers for July academy. We have 5 full-time civilian support staff with 2 part-time. We have 8 full-time dispatchers. We have 1 vacancy and 1 part-time dispatcher, and we have 49 crossing guards. In 2024, we answered over 42,000 calls for service. We are a nationally accredited agency, the only one in the county, and also 1 of 6 in the state. We are also state accredited. We also provide a lot of programs that do not impact the budget or taxpayers at all. These programs include our Junior Police Academy, Public Safety Academy. This is our 25th year. We take 90 children ages 10 to 14 for 1 week, and throughout the summer, we take them on 4 trips. This is paid for by a $28,000 grant. We also have a Blue Angel program where we give key lock boxes to senior citizens. We also have the Take Me Home tracking program for people with autism and mental illness. We also have our senior prom, our Senior Citizens Police Academy, and Operation Hope for those who are suffering from addiction. And we also still serve our community with the after-school programs. As far as fees, we do collect administrative fees for officers who work overtime, extra duty, where they're not on duty. In 2024, that was over $706,000. This morning, we had a meeting with Mr. Detiniak to speak about our operating and expense cuts.
So pursuant to the request by this governing body, we met and looked for 15% in operating expense cuts to the PD budget. Just to recap, last year's budgeted amount for the police department was $197,000. We'll round up to say $198,000. With the help of these gentlemen here and their staff, we were able to come up with a decrease of $30,000. So we originally came in with a budget request of $201,750. We are amending that budget request to be $171,750. So, thank you to these 2 gentlemen again and their staff in coming up with some cuts very quickly, while still obviously being able to deliver all of the services that the West Orange PD does. I open to questions from the council, if that's okay, Council President.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'm not sure where to start, either with our questions or with the proposed reductions. Any thoughts? Anybody online that
I just have
thoughts on
question.
questions? Start with questions or start with the proposed reductions?
In regards to process, just a quick question, are those cuts that you discussed earlier today, is that incorporated in the handout we've received?
Yes.
Is that, okay.
Yes, oops,
So they're already incorporated into this document we have.
I'll show you on the document, and I'm clicking too many times here. So in the column, the increase decrease, that's where we put in our proposed decreases. So starting with training courses and aids, we have a decrease of $10,000. This department has been, I don't want to say lucky, because it's the hard work that they put in. We've been able to secure a lot of forfeiture money, and we use forfeiture money for training for our officers. Again, just the hard work of the department, having the right people that we can plug into these cases where we can get this forfeiture money. So we're going to rely on forfeiture money to help us in 2025 for training. We looked at for some examination money and test money what we have for new employees, and for some medical expenses, we were able to cut $10,000 there, just based on hiring for this year. Safety equipment, ammunition, while we don't want to really cut for ammunition because the cost of ammunition has gone up and our officers do have to get certified, and these gentlemen here could speak about that in a little bit more detail. They are recertified, I believe, twice a year.
Yes.
Um, So it's not that we're keeping like an armory here, we have to use the ammunition because of the recertification. And we have our officers, obviously needing to do that in practice. So, with ammunition costs going up, we still feel we can meet the needs of recertification with that decrease. And then I'll go to the bottom. That's all of them there, the safety equipment. And, we have a decent supply of safety equipment. Of course, we've bought things through the COVID days. It's dwindling down. I think we heard the same thing from our health department. So we were able to make a cut of $5,000 here. I mean, I will say for the size of the department, the OE budget is pretty trim. For a department of this size, 150 employees, including civilians and guards, they run a pretty slim budget, and I don't think that has been increased in too many years, so.
Excuse me, Council President, I just have another quick question.
Please.
Thank you. So we had a presentation from Dynamic Traffic last month. And, with the talks and preparing to establish a parking authority through the police department. Are those needs incorporated with staffing in this budget? And if so, what line items are there?
So in terms of staffing, I think we can make do with the staffing that we have. And
Discuss that.
And for the equipment, that's going to be a capital project because we're going to have to buy a considerable amount of equipment, including the LSRP, the license plate reader systems, the tablet systems, the new meters. So all the equipment side of things is going to have to come in an ordinance. So that wouldn't be included in an operating. But we've looked at the staffing. We've had some meetings about the staffing and their recommendations and what we have currently, and I think we can staff it ourselves, especially, we can make do, it's going to be a prorated thing this year.
Okay.
Next year, we might reevaluate and have to add staff to the S&W request.
Do you think we'll be good in regards to enforcement if this does happen to kick off? before
do,
the end of the
yeah.
year? Okay.
Yeah, and the bonus of next year is that we'll have an idea then of revenue as well. So there's going to be offsetting revenue added to the anticipated side of things. So it's not just going to be an increase in costs. We're going to have the offset in revenue, which, I would imagine, and what we've been shown by pro forma financials is going to be pretty significant difference between the revenue and the expenses. Now you're going to have the capitalized value of the equipment, but just on an operating side, we're going to see more revenue than we're going to spend in operating.
But you're good with your OE right now and your personnel? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman.
The department understands, where we are in terms of tax increase. And when I came to them with the 15%, they put their heads down and really helped me out with this. So I want to thank them again. Just a little commentary on the S&W. Not that we're going to go through the individuals. There's a lot of individual officers. In 2024, at the end of 2024, we were able to settle all of the collective bargaining agreements with our superior officers and our patrolmen. And I've said in previous meetings, we settled on a 1.5% for 2024, 1/1/2024, 1.5% for 7/1/2024, and then 3% every year through the end of the contract. I think looking at where in general municipalities are with their police contracts, I think it was very favorable for the Township of West Orange. Interest arbitration is no longer the 2% that it used to be. We're seeing awards of 3.5%, 4%. And with the new interest arbitration laws that are before the legislative right now, that could be even more. So I think looking back on the 3% as the baseline for the contracts, it was very favorable. So we're not going to have to negotiate for another couple of years with our unions. But obviously it impacts our salary and wages. So in the salary and wages, we have the contractual increases, but then we also have officers that are in the steps. And that's part of the contract as well. So in addition to a 3% increase, they're going to move from step 5 to 6, and there's going to be a base salary increase for that. So you do have the detail, which again, not going to go through here, but that detail is there. And if you want any more information regarding those movements or the holiday calculations or anything that goes into salary and wages for police, we are prepared to give that to you or detail it out however you'd like. And that goes for obviously the Citizens Budget Advisory Board.
Mr. Fagan, do we have any questions from the online? Okay. Anyone here? Yes, please go ahead.
So my second question is, I see that you didn't touch the court security line, but I also see that lot they were 20,000 under from last year. So I'm just curious why you didn't touch that.
So the court security for the year, it's actually a little bit more. It's 60,400. So overall, the budget will support it, but that's what the 2025 court security encumbered cost is. So.
Okay, because last year, 36,880 was spent.
Well, now we've added, we should really just call it building security, because now we have the guard here at Town Hall. So that increased that contract.
That makes sense.
Can you tell us how much has actually been spent for ammunition already to date?
Just so everybody knows, Mr. Detiniak wanted to be a police officer when he was growing up. So
I could
he's
never do it.
hogging the limelight.
I could never do it. I give all of our public safety personnel all the credit in the world. I could never do it.
Amen.
I also have way too many papers in front of me, and I
If you wanted to
purposely
vote-
did print this out to be able to talk about these things. And
The reason why I'm asking is because I know that we approved a lot of POs for ammunition this year, so I'm just wondering what is left.
all right, I think it's actually in my office. If you will indulge me 2 seconds to run over and grab my other paperwork for police. So if you guys want to talk about
So just
a
so
fun
you're aware
case
that
or something.
the requalifications are twice a year are mandated through the Attorney General's office, not just with the firearms that the officers carry on duty. It's also the long rifles, the submachine guns and things like that, the extra weapons that are available to us. We do use this 90% of it is, I would imagine around 90% of it is practice ammunition. We do not fire or in service. We reuse that. We unload, hold that, and then when we're done requalifying, we reload with the on-duty ammo that we use as long as it's still sufficient to use. There is a date on it that it does expire, and then we do expend it during practice.
Mhm.
So that is all practice ammunition, and it's just the bare minimum ammunition that we need for the requalifications twice a year with the shotguns, the long rifles, the sub guns, and the on-duty firearm.
And why is there an increase this year?
Ammunition went up, price of it.
If
So
you
it's
can
the
find
same,
it.
it's the same,
That was a big.
same quantity, but the price has gone up.
Yes, ma'am. And that's by state contract, the ammunition.
Hopefully with the magic of editing, Joe can
Okay.
make it seem like I never left.
Also, since you spent less on printing last year, why have you asked for more this year?
The unknown. We recently got hit a few months ago from the prosecutor's office where he had a very large Megan's Law notification. And it was gonna cost us substantial to have to do this because somebody was working in town after the release. We had everything done and unfortunately that person got arrested again, but it was a cost that we did have to put out.
And that is a paper mailing that you
No,
do?
that's a door to door.
Hand delivered.
Oh,
Yeah,
So
just
we,
in areas?
certain areas, it's broken out by.
Radius.
Mhm.
And that's dictated by the Essex County Prosecutor's Office.
so we have not purchased ammunition yet this year.
Okay. I remember approving it. Okay,
We can follow up.
It might have been charged to last year's budget, you know,
Maybe.
maybe it was for the prior year, but for this year's budget, we have not.
okay. So I appreciate that you brought down the tests, exams and shots, but can you bring it down more?
Well, we currently have 3 vacancies that we're processing to fill. We're currently staffed at 95, like Deputy Chief Keir said. We're going to 98. We're processing. We're gonna need that money to process the new candidates going in.
Mhm.
And there is also some anticipated retirements this year that we would have to replace
And these,
the officers.
right, so these tests could cost an additional 4,000?
What was the figure? I'm sorry.
You initially requested 20. You actually spent 6. You came down 10, so you're asking for 10. So the difference is around 4,000. So are you anticipating spending an additional $4,000?
With the hire of a new officer, yes.
They go through a pretty extensive battery of tests. It's not like when we hire a white collar worker, you know, they go for basically a drug test. We call it the physical, but it's a drug test. Our public safety personnel go for, it's a much more complicated battery of tests.
Boot camp.
This is a full day psychological. So
Psychological.
Yeah,
they're
I-
8 hours.
Right. On the investigative supplies? Is there any leeway there?
Could I just ask for you to speak into the microphone
Sure.
as close as you feel comfortable? It doesn't have to be right here, but
Yeah. You have.
it helps people in the gallery and also online. Thank you.
Again, that's one of those things where we don't know what we're gonna need with the investigative supplies. DNA testing, we still do fingerprint testing. There's forensic tests that sometimes we have to send things out to get those things processed, so the proper evidence. So I wouldn't want to go any further on that. Again, because of the unknown, we don't know what kind of cases are going to be thrown at us.
It seems like a big jump, though. You're asking for $4,300 more than you actually spent last year.
You didn't hire.
So I do want to go back to the fact that we have to focus on to the overall budget spend. So out of the 197 that we budgeted for last year, we spent around 80%. So we had about $40,000 left over. So we have already cut $30,000 out of that. So if we project the same spend, you know, we're going to be left with like $10,000, which is not really a lot of leeway. So, you know, the individual sub accounts, those individual items might be, you know, there might be a difference, but overall, they spent $157,000 of the $197,000 budget.
Are you done, Councilwoman? Councilwoman, do you have any questions?
Yeah, it's just to work with Councilwoman. So for example, I see here in line item 118, traffic marker flares. There wasn't anything budgeted for, but yet you spent 6,300. So I guess to your point, they needed flares, they didn't have money, and they had to pull it from somewhere.
Right. So if I could just add one thing, and this is not just with the police department, I've had this conversation. I think all of the departments are looking forward to having sub accounts with more realistic budgeted figures,
Yeah.
and that we stick to those budgeted amounts, even though we don't have to, by state law, it's the control account, it's the bottom line number. But we would look forward to, and I think the council would look forward to, being more realistic with the sub accounts when we move to the admin system so that, we're still spending within the sub accounts, the limits of those sub accounts. And if we need to over expend them, we can show like a transfer between those subs. Just so that our detailed spending is more realistic, because here, these are just sort of historical numbers in the budget amounts for things that maybe happened years ago, when there was a need for it. But we want to be a little bit more, accurate with our sub accounts, and Edmunds will allow us to do that when we set up our new system.
That's on the other page,
Oh, this is the next page. So,
where the 6,300 was.
oh,
And same thing too, you have 709 for the auxiliary police that you didn't have budgeted the year before. So there's expenses they paid for that weren't budgeted. And that's how they're able to pay for that, because they have it in other line items that they transfer out.
But we put another auxiliary officer through the academy uniforms.
Yep, we incur costs when we send
Yes,
newbies to the academy
Yep.
and when we hire them
yes.
by state law. I have a question. It's really, it's for line item 085 for dues. There was almost $28,000 in the dues last year and nothing asked for this year. Very grateful, but I'm just wondering what happened operationally.
That was dues for it was moved into the IT account. That was for licensing fees and dues for.
Did I hear correctly that you have one vacancy right now?
For police officers?
Yes, for police.
We have three. We're processing three right now.
Okay.
Awesome.
One dispatcher.
3 officers, 1 dispatcher.
Yes.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about the succession process, at least as much as you can? Because we all know that Chief Abbott is retiring again because of state law later on this year. And it gets me thinking about slippage. So that's why I'm asking these questions, just so perhaps the council gets a better idea of where there might be. And when I say slippage, I mean budgeted line items for personnel when the personnel leaves, perhaps by retirement. And then we would have that money allocated, but we could potentially spend it elsewhere. So that's what I'm interested in, succession and potential slippage and hiring, that sort of thing, please.
Well, we haven't had any conversations on this yet. So I really couldn't answer that.
Okay, that's fine. How about slippage? Do you anticipate much in the way of retirements? It didn't look like there were any noted here, so.
There are people that put in that there could be up to 11 people that actually have their time. We have lost officers in the past that left the state. They've gone to other departments, so we really don't know where that'll be.
and the thing with the retirements is that in police and in fire, when you have a retirement, sort of everybody then is moving up to fill that spot. So especially when you get to the superior officers where we don't really have as many, we don't have like a step system like the patrolmen do. You save less in terms of like the base salary because they're all sort of moving into the same base salary. Patrolmen have a much longer run out to maximum. When you hit superior, you're pretty much there. If you're a lieutenant, you're at the salary now.
Yes. Any potential efficiencies or any other changes in how the department handles overtime? It seemed to me, and again, I was here for 10 years and left for 4 years, but I was pleasantly surprised that the overtime, even though it's large, it's less than some of the years when I was here. So I'm just curious as whether there's been any innovation, any law change, any contract change that might influence will we have to spend in overtime?
I think some of that would have to go, and back then was the staff, and we went down to 88 officers at that time. That caused a lot of overtime at that time. And a lot of people out sick, people that were burning time, people that were on terminal leave. Those things all incur overtime.
Okay. So nothing really changed?
We have not changed our minimum staffing levels on the day,
can't.
afternoon and midnight tour. We have still remained the same. So a lot of the vacancies that Deputy Chief is talking about was caused from extended leave and things of that nature, where the vacancy had to be filled to meet the minimum staffing requirements.
Sounds good.
For a town our size and a department our size, you're correct. The OT is actually, it's excellent in terms of what we spend. Comparatively, other towns spend far more with the same amount of officers, same scheduling. So, again, my hat's off to this department and how they control it.
Any other questions? Yes.
I just
Councilman?
want to piggyback on that, on this conversation. Thank you, Council President. So has the new way we do events in regards to the paperwork of when someone is having an event and now they have to fill out the required paperwork so we know how much staffing has that helped with the overtime and staffing events? So you have more of a handle on what you are spending on overtime and how many, staff, how many staff is needed?
So I think probably a lot of those events are running through the off-duty, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of that's that off duty where that's $760,000. I forget the exact number. It's going to the extra duty solutions where they're working off duty. And also, if we have time to plan for it, obviously we can get a better handle on it.
Okay. All right. 'Cause
When
I
we
didn't,
do staff events with officers on duty, we do send that breakdown separately from the administration to
Right.
over to what that expense was for the officers that were
so
assigned.
we
to
have a
that.
handle how much an event costs us in regards to personnel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. good.
Absolutely. That's always broken down.
And,
It should be analyzed every year to
and-
see, if there's a large crowd or not, and if it's worth having the event.
just for the public's knowledge too, because I think it's important to talk about, because I think, especially if you're driving around Bloomfield Avenue, going up the avenue, you're seeing a lot of construction and a lot of different police vehicles. You might see Verona, Bloomfield's been up there, West Colville, maybe West Orange will end up over there. A lot of these jobs are what we call off-duty or outside duty positions. So you'll see an officer with a car, with his uniform on, but we're not paying that officer for that work. The PSC&G or Verizon or Essex County or whoever is contracted with the municipality that needs an officer is paying for that officer. So we use, and a lot of municipalities have moved to this, a third party that they deal with the billing so that we don't have to do it. The municipalities used to have to do it themselves. And, I'm sure these guys know how much work it was. So when somebody hires an officer through Extra Duty Solutions is sending us the money to pay that officer those gross wages, and then they're going after the client for that money. So, we're getting our money before we pay that officer. We're getting our admin fees, when we have to pay that officer. So that's not coming out of the taxpayer dollars. That is actually putting money into taxpayer coffers with that admin fee, with that vehicle fee. So, again, sometimes if you see an officer, the public sees an officer out there, it's not an OT detail, that's an extra duty, so.
Got it. Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
This department is saving $30,000.
Correct. So we've made a cut to OE for $30,000.
Just the obvious. Is there anything more you can do? We need to cut over
So-
$1 million.
So we're continuing to look at, every single department, not just OE, but salaries and wages. And if we see an opportunity, to make a cut that's not going to affect the department's ability to do its work, we will bring that forward to this governing body.
Is there any way that you can impact salary and wages since they're all contracted?
So, no, we couldn't, we, correct. So we could look at the trend for overtime through payroll. We've done 11 payrolls for the year. We can look and see where the OT is trending and look and see where, our summer OT typically hits, because that's usually when things get very busy in the summertime. That's the same with our FD. And
What
we
is the
can-
OT budget?
1.15 million.
Okay. And what was it last year?
We kept it the same. We kept OT the same.
What are your suggestions in terms of cutting OT?
Again, we have to just look and see where we've been trending. Having good staffing so that we're reducing the amount of time that we have short-staffed OT obviously helps us. But at the same time, we could, and hopefully that doesn't happen, we could get hit with an event and some accident, disaster, or something where we're going to have the need for OT for all of our public safety. So, we still need to give ourselves that cushion, that ability to staff, those events. Hopefully they don't come. As part of our S&W, we have base pay for our officers. We have longevity for our officers, holiday pay. There's allowances to be a detective, captain, and we have clothing allowances. Those are all contractual. They are detailed out in all of the collective bargaining agreements, what those amounts are, how they're calculated. So you really can't make changes to those unless you wanted to reopen contracts and renegotiate. So as Councilwoman Castellino said, we will look at OT. We will look at the trend, and if we think that there's an opportunity to cut, again, without getting caught short, we will bring that back. So.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Council President. So IT is going to be Nikki, Mr. Allegrino.
Yes.
We'll be seeing him tonight or no?
No, we don't have IT on tonight, but you're correct. Mr. Allegrino is in the IT budget, along with the deputy department head, Mr. Garcia. That is a separate line item, and he's not included in the police S&W.
Are you getting new systems over at the police department? I remember there was talk in regards to was it the police vehicles? I can't remember, but I'm not sure if you could answer that
We've
part
had
or not.
license plate readers that were purchased
Yeah.
through a grant. Last year purchased through a grant was a computer, a high-end computer for the Detective Bureau to read different kinds of surveillance and tapes and DVDs and that was very expensive. That was also a grant.
Okay, because in the IT budget, we spent 287,000 and change last year. And this year you're budgeted last year 452,000. So I knew we had some items to be implemented, and I don't know if you could answer that.
I don't want to speak for the IT department,
Okay.
but I know the car's being outfitted. I don't know if it comes out of that budget or.
Yeah, so that'll be part of, IT will be, one thing, they'll talk about IT PD, IT FD, and IT everybody else. That'll be a separate budget presentation.
And can I make a recommendation, Mr. Detiniak? When these items come up, if they are funded by grants and whatnot, if you could let us know when we're, to that part of the budget, so we know that there's income coming in on.
Sure. So nothing in the OE that you see here would be funded by a grant.
Okay.
This is purely paid for by our local revenues and tax dollars. The grant programs are separate. If I had an offset for something that, let's say I had, paying 50/50, 50% from a grant, 50% from operating, I would show it as a grant offset. But otherwise, if it's just purely a grant project, that's separate.
Okay, so when he comes, he'll need to explain those big
Mhm.
jumps. Okay, great. Thank you, Council President.
Where in this budget do you show the amount that we pay for some of our personnel to have private cars and their Easy Pass and their insurance? Where is that reflected in here?
So,
And their gas?
the insurance all falls under our insurance line item, our liability insurance line item. We have a huge fleet of vehicles that are insured by the JIF. So when you say private cars, we have personnel that take emergency vehicles home. These vehicles have a light package. It's not a radio car, because I don't believe you can take a radio car out of the township, correct? And
Right.
park it in a driveway. But these are cars that have the light package, and, if there was an emergency at 3 a.m, these particular leadership personnel can jump in the car and put the lights on and get to the emergency. So, these are public safety vehicles, for these individuals. So it's not something that would necessitate giving them like a fringe benefit, on their W-2. The IRS says if it's a public safety vehicle, you don't have to give a fringe benefit for something like that. So the gas is going to be paid for in our fuel line item.
So there's no way to break down what these, you're calling them emergency vehicles, but they are company cars basically that are going to certain
They're,
people who work in the town. So is there a way to break that out to see what exactly we're paying for those cars? Even though I know some of them have been purchased.
so I imagine that in terms of the insurance, we could sort of figure out what the insurance on a 2018 Tahoe is, because we do have them listed, and we could try to figure that out. Maintenance, again, we could pull records for these particular vehicles and see what the maintenance is. Fuel, when we fuel up, do we have to scan a card?
Yeah, that's all electric.
Yeah, so, for the individuals that have a card, we could, I guess, pull the fuel costs. But that's more about individuals. Can it be tracked by vehicle as well?
Program that the
Okay.
Department of Public Works, you have to put your ID number in and the card number and everything.
Yeah.
Fuel them up.
So, I guess we could figure that all out. But again, these are public safety vehicles. They may not have the full graphics package and top light bar, but they're discreet. I don't know, these guys could say what they really are.
They're undercover cars with a light package, so it's the
Undercover cars,
emergency
yeah.
vehicle when there's an emergency.
And what is in a light packet?
Light package, it's the lights that light up the
Side.
car, would be inside
Oh,
the grill.
okay.
There's one up in the top of the windshield being so all the lights that would work normally would start flashing and have a.
And sirens,
emergency.
they're
And
equipped with
sirens.
sirens also, just like a regular marked police car without any of the exterior markings, the lettering, the light bar on top of the vehicles. It has everything else but that.
So are these vehicles that you just drive from work, from your home to work and back? Or are they used for other purpose or to conferences or to whatever? Or are these used as your personal vehicles?
The vehicle, I don't want to speak for anybody else. The vehicles that are assigned in the police department are assigned to the individual 24/7 to be available, because you'd never know when you're going to need the emergency vehicle to get to an emergency. Could be from wherever you are. So
How do you monitor the fuel usage for those cars? Since you're saying you use them all the time because you never know when you're going to need them.
exactly.
So it's your personal vehicle, basically. So how do you monitor the fuel input in?
Like I
into
said,
these?
every time the vehicle has to be fueled up, it's done at the township garage. and the program that they have there that you have to enter the vehicle number, your ID number, the mileage, and then it dispenses the gas after you program that.
Okay, so are
So
these,
it's all logged.
are these vehicles used for personal travel?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. The vehicle is assigned to the officer 24/7, because if you're saying it's while off duty, yes, because we have been called back to emergency shootings and whatever the incident may be, you don't know when that's going to happen. So it would be not the same if you had to go home, get the emergency vehicle, and then respond. So yes, they are assigned to us, and we utilize them because you don't know when you will be called in to an emergency.
Okay.
Is that sufficient to answer your question? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would like to know how many police have these vehicles, personal use vehicles?
To my knowledge, 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when one is retired, what will happen to that vehicle?
That goes under the fleet. We don't assign the cars. The cars are assigned through fleet management.
Mhm.
When an individual retires, it would be turned back over to the township and put back into service with whoever needs a vehicle.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions or comments, from my colleagues? Nothing on Zoom. Then speaking of retired, you may retire for the evening.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
so much. Thank you for your help.
on 67 's the fire department.
Thank you.
Council President,
Yes, Mr. Denny.
I'd like to introduce Chief Tony Vecchio. He's going to speak about the West Orange Fire Department and, you know, all the great things that West Orange FD does.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, council, for letting me be here today. To follow along with how the police describe themselves, I'll give you a little background. I think most of you probably know, but if you don't, then it'll be some new things. So the West Orange Fire Department is comprised of 88 uniformed personnel, currently with 3 civilian personnel. Of the 88, that includes myself, 6 deputy chiefs, 26 fire captains, and 55 firefighters. We are, as of 2 weeks from now, we will be at full staffing of 88. We have a conditional offer and someone who's ready to start the academy. And all of those personnel that I just mentioned are trained at the level of firefighter 2 and EMT. So everyone in the department is cross-trained as firefighter EMTs. Last year, I think a couple of months ago, I gave you all, and I like to do it before budget time, I gave you all an annual report to kind of review. I hope you're able to take a look at it and enjoy the pictures.
Always.
We were a little higher call volume this year. We responded to just over 7,700 calls for service. The majority of those calls are EMS related.
I think the gallery cannot hear you.
Am I not speaking into this?
Yeah, you have to get
Okay.
pretty close.
All right. How about now? Sound better?
Yes.
Good. So last year, we saw two retirements, and we actually in 2024 we hired 10 new firefighters. So I'm sure as we get a little further in this conversation, you'll see some differences between last year and this year. And as I said, we are with this new hire, we will be at full staffing. So that obviously has an effect on overtime and need for overtime, which is a good thing. So I can give you a whole bunch of statistics. I don't know how many you'd like me to give. Maybe as we go through, I can add. One of the things that I know will come up because this involves finance is obviously we do run an EMS program for which we bill. We do not bill town residents, but we accept the assignment from their insurance company or Medicare or Medicaid. Last year, our numbers were, don't have them off the top of my head. Bear with me. Last year, our total billing for EMS was 1.792 million, less advanced life support and collection cost fees. We had a net revenue from EMS of $1,560,820.67. So that was actually an increase from the year prior. There's also, and Mr. Detiniak can probably explain, there's also a little bit of movement in that number because depending when RWJ Barnabas bills us, if it happens in December and they don't get paid until the following year, some of those the costs for what I'm referring to, advanced life paramedics, those costs can go into 1 year. So they're not always, so when I say we did 300,000 plus more this year than we did the previous year in collection, there's some movement there, but it's a good ballpark. So,
So is it a break even with that? You're billing the insurance companies, right?
correct. We only bill, so if we bill the patient and the insurance company if someone's not a resident.
Mm-hmm.
If they're a resident, we only bill the insurance company and we accept whatever that insurance company, there's no balance billing. So in other words, if there's a balance of $400, that's waived. Does that answer? Was that what your question was, or kind of? No?
Well, so how much does it how much is it costing West Orange to provide this service, and how much are you getting back from billing?
I
recouping?
can't particularly answer. I mean, how much it costs West Orange to provide the service, because that would be a calculation of salaries and health benefits and things of that nature, and what we call a relief factor, meaning, we ride 2 ambulances, 4 shifts, with 2 people on each ambulance. So if you do that math, multiply it by, happens to be the most junior firefighters and junior officers that are on that. So what their salary would be, is it a break even? No, I'm going to tell you without even doing the math, it's not a break even. When this was all first contemplated, years back, what came into it though was, and pretty much universally, people didn't want to balance bill residents. They thought that this was a service that needed to be provided to residents without cost. And the comparison with a privatized ambulance company, for example, was there'd be millions of dollars in balance billing to the residents of West Orange. So it's one of those things where the cost may be a little more, but you're saving your residents that extra expense that where there would be balance billing. There's also, as a public entity, we don't have to collect what I'm going to call I don't want to call it a copayment, but I'll call it a copayment from Medicare, where a private ambulance company would have to collect that. And it would come right from, Mrs. Smith's would have to pay that. So, yeah, so it's hard to make that comparison off the top of my head. I think though, because I've thought it out, obviously. It's a lot closer than you'd think. Some people say, well, we should privatize it. It's not. There's a charge to have someone come into this community. Years ago, there might not have been a charge to have another ambulance company come into this community. Now they bill. They bill to be here. There's no, gone are the days of, well, they just want to come in and bill our residents. Now most of the privatized companies expect to be paid to service the community as well as billing.
So if somebody calls for an ambulance and they are visiting somebody in West Orange, but they are not a West Orange resident, how is that billed?
They get billed if their insurance covers it, and most insurance companies will cover it. There could be $100 copay or something, depending on whatever their insurance is, but they will get billed. If their address is outside of West Orange, they will get billed. There is a different than what you just said. We have a lot of assisted living facilities in town, and some are rehabs. If their residence is that facility, Daughters of Israel, for example, if that's where they live, they do not get an additional bill. That's their residence.
Okay.
You
mentioned that St. Barnabas bills us at the end of the year.
So we have an agreement. We have to have this agreement because Medicare will only accept. So there. Let me break it down. We're what's called basic life support, which means we can provide care up to a certain point. And then beyond us is advanced life support, which are the paramedics. They ride currently, they didn't used to, but now they ride out of the hospital. And they're under the umbrella of RWJ Barnabas, Atlantic Health, University Hospital. So Medicare only allows one bill to be sent. So we have to have an agreement. Coincidentally, we share the same billing company, but we have to have an agreement with them that allows us to be the person who bills the patient. And then what we do is we pay back a portion. We split the what we collect with RWJ Barnabas. So we have an agreement in place that allows for that to happen.
But they're not picking up. So why are you splitting? I'm just not understanding. Why are you splitting with?
They're not handling the transport, but
right.
if it's an advanced life support call, which means that you're probably going to need meds to be pushed to save someone's life. We need them there.
So
they're
it means that there are
providing
two different services coming to
correct. They ride with us to the hospital.
Okay.
So if it's a stroke, if it's a cardiac arrest, anything that's
they're providing the
significant.
paramedic support.
Exactly. And we're happy to have them because they're at a much higher level than we are. They can push meds. Do
transfusions these days.
They do all kinds of things. We're there's actually, stay tuned, but there's a couple of things that they're going to allow BLS providers to do coming up too, which we're going to train to do. So.
But, the advantage that we have is that, unlike if you just had a volunteer ambulance squad, I believe all of our firefighters are EMT certified, or they need to get EMT certified within their first year. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So, we have an entire department full of EMT certified individuals.
And back to your question, because I think I probably know the direction you're thinking with that. We are all cross-trained. And when we first took over EMS, when the squad couldn't get members anymore and we took over EMS, we did it with the exact same number of people and the same minimum staffing that we had. We didn't add one additional personnel. So if you're saying, is it to me, you got it for free in theory. But because where we are, our minimum staffing is 17. So there has to be 17 people on shift. That's an NFPA, which is our standard that we follow. If you look deeply into NFPA, we're actually understaffed, but we're commensurate with the other communities of similar size. If you took away the 4 people who ride every day, the ambulances, we'd be incredibly understaffed as a fire department. So what it allows us to do is we have 4 people each day who are responding to EMS calls, but they'll also be at a structure fire if we have it. So does that answer kind of? Okay. What else you got?
Okay, so just as I said with the police department, we came back and we looked at a 15% cut for OE. So we came up with a total of $16,881. It's almost 15% of what we started with. So to recap, we budgeted for, in last year, for OE at 110,000. This year, we were asking for 112,500, but we have cut it by 16,800. So we're down to a recommended budget of 95,600. I also want to go back up to the top, and what we did here with the chief is that we looked at the budget requests, allocations, and with the chief, we wanted to do a more accurate sub-account request. So our budget request, and the chief can talk about this, we revamped that line to be more of what they actually need from those sub-accounts.
Council President.
Yes, Councilwoman.
I just want to share with my colleagues and Chief, thank you. I'm glad to see you fully staffed. I know we sat
Thank you.
here last year, and I believe you were in desperate need for a couple of years of for an admin, which I think last year we filled that spot
That spot
finally.
is filled.
So you may see some increases for my colleagues in regards to the personnel, but we decided last year that the admin was desperately needed, especially with each year, more and more calls. We keep talking about, unfortunately, more development in the township. Affordable housing knocking on our door, so we need the personnel to answer all these medical calls. But thank you. I'm glad you're
Thank you.
fully functional now.
I do want to ask, with all of the assisted living, and especially a
Growing.
brand new one growing, it's a big impact on your force.
It
Is there any way to recoup any of this, like from these facilities that are
So
putting
this
such
is-
high demand on
This is
you?
probably not the forum for it, but I would, and it's something I'd
is.
like to talk to the mayor about it as well, is looking to these nonprofit, and I mean, it's not my place to say, but
Mhm.
a lot of these facilities are nonprofit. They're not, we're not bringing tax revenue in from
Right.
these facilities. So years ago, I remember specifically Green Hill, just because I don't mean to mention them by name, but they donated some things to the town. It can't hurt to ask. We're not in a place to, I make a joke to my staff that if I have to put the Chelsea's logo on an ambulance because we need an ambulance, I'll put the Chelsea's logo on an ambulance. The stadiums do it. I'm okay. But again, that's probably above my pay grade. I don't know that I can make that decision, but I'd certainly be open to it.
Right, well, we have hundreds and hundreds more coming in with the atrium opening up, and that just puts massive stress on your staff.
Yeah.
Have you ever done a
Most of the
calculation?
facilities in theory
Mhm.
have, because they have to for their emergency operations plan, they have to have a dedicated private service that will, and they also have private services when their patients have to go to the doctors. We don't we're an emergency
Right.
transport. Unfortunately, they're few and far between these days and they're not available. So all of a sudden, very often a certain issue turns into a bigger issue and they dial 911. So that's something that we deal with a lot. And we'll probably be dealing with it long after I'm gone. But for that reason, I don't feel ashamed at all to go and ask, I mean, why not?
And
So-
Mr. Detiniak, is this done in other municipalities where there's such a heavy impact with assisted and independent living on a firefighting and police force?
I haven't been in a municipality that had like a substantial amount of assisted living and nursing homes and all that. So, my experience, I can't speak to anything like that. I will say though, if there is an opportunity to provide service and we can do it efficiently, I think we need to look at it. We have a partner, a great partner in Essex County, you know, where there might be an opportunity there because a lot of our calls in the summertime are at the zoo. So potentially partnering up with Essex County. If we're going to be there anyway, you know, can we come up with some sort of mutually beneficial agreement there? So, you know, we could look at the assisted living in the same way. If we're going to end up being there all the time, is there something that, you know, we can work on together that's going to be good for us and good for them?
Chief Vecchio, do you keep tabs on how often you are at nursing homes, assisted living, independent?
Yeah, I mean, I could pull it up.
And would you be able to tell us like what percentage of your
Not
caseload
this
is
second,
that?
but
No, I mean, just-
tomorrow I could.
yeah.
Probably, yeah.
does it,
Yeah.
is that a percentage?
Significant. I mean, the truth of the
Significant?
matter is, most of the calls, we bill them and their insurance company pays. So it's not, our concern usually is when it's not an emergency transport, because we ride 2 ambulances and a third where we'll take an engine company out of service in order to put it, and the third ambulance is in service a lot. So we're stretched. So when it's a call that, you know, just above going to the doctor, like a doctor's office, we shouldn't be called for that. So,
No.
so yeah, that's why I think maybe they should have some skin in the game. And we had talked about what Mr. Detiniak, well, amongst ourselves, about possibly approaching the county. Again, for me to approach the county executive, that's not going to happen. That has to come from either you guys or the mayor. But I would love it, and I can envision an ambulance wrapped in, you know, he's a big promoter, the county executive, wrapped in some beautiful, you know, zoo type of a wrap. And again, I think that's to me, I'm a promoter. I think that's great, but he'd have to pay for the ambulance.
Please.
Councilwoman.
And to that point, wouldn't, when these facilities come to the planning board, isn't that something that they could request from them? I believe with the lofts, we had requested at one time, jitney service, if they had so many providers, which they didn't produce, but isn't that something that planning should be dealing with at the board level to request that a transport be included within their facility?
I don't know enough about
Yeah.
land use law,
Something
if that's something that they can require. But it's an excellent idea because, you know, it's a fact of life for assisted living that
Yeah.
there's going to be medical transport every single day.
I'll find out.
Well,
Thank you.
Mr. Vecchio, Chief Vecchio, can you provide us a number just in terms of the percentage of how much you're,
Going to the,
yes, you're going.
can
to
I
be
get it
paid?
to you tomorrow?
Anytime.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't mean to laugh, Councilwoman, but look at Mr. Fagan.
Are you done?
I am. He could go to the card, the board.
Councilwoman Scarpa, you have the floor.
Yeah, I don't really have too many questions other than to say that thank you, Chief, for all you do. I recently was a recipient of one of those rides on the fire truck, not with my dad, but for myself to St. Barnabas. And I can't tell you, those guys are incredible. They do go above and beyond, and you really don't feel like you're even with strangers. You feel like you're with family. And you guys are worth every penny we pay for you.
Thank you. Did we give
I
you
did have the
cappuccino
same
on there?
thought. What?
Did we give you cappuccino?
I did have the same thought actually as Councilwoman Castellino. I think it would be great for us to talk to legal and to the land use boards. And if we take on any more of these establishments, as we seem to be, we can have some kind of a requirement, you know, for them to provide that service to offset, you know, the cost to us. In fact, I think I want to review the stormwater as well and talk to engineering about putting in review fees like Verona has. I think we're not going to get our way out of this by just cutting costs. I think we have to look at the revenue side and see where we could bring in monies to offset some of these issues. But just thanks for all you guys do.
Thank you.
Mr. Fagan, I saw you holding up Councilwoman Geber Michaels signed. And I-
Putting it down, it's not reversed, it's not.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Chief Vecchio, you mentioned that you had two retires last year. Have you had any this year, or do you anticipate? I realize at the beginning of the year, everybody who might retire gives their name, and then they may or may not retire, but
Exactly.
sometimes you know. Sometimes.
Well, I'll repeat what the police department said. One person has, we call it push the button. When you decide you're going to retire, you push the button. We have one person who had made notice that he's going to, but he hasn't yet pushed the button. There are probably another 4 that are eligible. I don't anticipate any of them before the end of 25. So, but anything's possible unfortunately.
So any opportunities or any prospect of slippage this year? It sounds like you're almost full up right now, but.
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie to you. I kind of came into our meeting to take the 15% off, kicking and screaming a little bit, because this budget hasn't changed since I've been in the last 8 years. And I don't believe since Chief Smeralda before me, it was a while. It's been the same dollar amount. So things go up. I can't, the one thing I was going to ask Mr. Detiniak, because I looked at this number. Why does it show that? We got that.
That's as of 12/31. That's why.
Oh, because we went
Yeah.
over it. Okay. Okay. I was just questioning the number that we spent last year, because we actually we exhausted our budget in September of last year. And that I could have told you was going to happen because we hired 10 new recruits. And I had asked the year before. Unfortunately, when I come here, I know what's going to happen, and the budget was the same. So I knew that at the end of the year, we were going to run out of money. We had to hire the people, which is a good thing. That's one of the areas where we were able to reduce the OE.
Yeah.
We only have one new hire in 2025, maybe one, but probably not in the fall. So we had medical testing and psychological testing budgeted for our average year. So we took money from that. So that's kind of where we were able to training. We took a little bit out of, because we'll exhaust what we have in here for training. But in theory, we don't have as many new recruits to train this year. So,
Did you see a positive effect on overtime?
Yes.
yeah, I'll let
Yes.
Mr. Detiniak
So-
cover that.
So the chief and I talked about this in 2024. FD spent 1.8 million on OT. Now that we are up to the TO, and we've looked at the first 11 overtimes and projected out the summer where we're going to see a bump. We know that's going to happen. We're reducing the overtime ask down to $1,050,000.
$1,050,000, you're going to cut it by $600,000.
Yeah,
Oh, sweet.
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, that's good news.
Are we gonna have a lot of room at the end of the year in OT? Probably not, but we feel that with the staffing where it is and projecting out what we think we're gonna have for people leaving, whether it's terminal leave or hopefully not a medical leave. I think we're gonna be able to handle that being at $1,050,000. Again, it just shows that, you save some money not being at the TO, but then you're spending it elsewhere because you have to staff at the minimum levels. So you end up bringing somebody in and paying them a time and a half. And it's just a vicious cycle, and it's happening every shift. And if you look at our OTs from 2024, one payroll was $144,000, $111,000. I mean, these are 2-week periods. So now that we've hired up, we don't have that happen. It happens sometimes, short staffing, but it's not as prevalent as it was in previous years. So
And that will be reflected in you'll change that then.
Yeah, so you have it in the new packet, and then when we start to look at the summary of things at the end,
Oh, there it is, yeah.
you know, we'll see the total impact on the anticipated, and it's significant because I said in the previous meeting, $998,000 is a tax point. So, you know, they're getting pretty close to a tax point, 2/3 of a tax point there. So it's a significant decrease, and we're going to keep looking for those opportunities. As we get more payroll data, you know, we'll look at what we can adjust. You know, as I said, contractual things, just as I talked about with PD, fire department, we settled our contracts with the superiors and the rank and file back in 2024. Same duration as our PD, same increases, the 1.5 on 1/1/24, 1.5 on 7/1, and then the 3% for succeeding years. And just as I said with PD, it applies to the fire department. I think we did really well in terms of our increases, because we have to remember there were years where these unions took 0%.
Yes.
So that stalled out the increases. So I don't want to say like they haven't made up ground, but I mean, it's true. Other departments, you know, never took a 0% in the last 10, 15 years. So they've grown at a greater level than West Orange FD. So I think if you start looking at interest arbitration awards going forward next couple of years and just settled contracts, you know, our 3% is going to look pretty attractive compared to some of those other ones.
What would it take for the police department to give us this kind of a diminishment in overtime?
So I just don't think we have the same opportunity for police OT. It's more controlled. We didn't have the big fluctuations due to short staffing. So I don't know if there is as much an opportunity, but we're going to look at it. We're going to project out and see if that's a possibility. So,
Chief, has there ever been any discussion of shared services with Roseland or Essex Fells?
Oh, yeah.
And how
Never.
would that impact us?
With regard to fire or EMS or what, there hasn't been conversation. No one's ever approached us.
so
Do you know something I don't know?
No, I don't.
the difficult part would be that, you know, I believe
Other towns, though. We've had it with other towns.
so you have to do it with a town that has
Yeah.
paid fire for it to really make sense. I think Roseland is volunteer, correct?
Roseland's volunteer, correct, but
They would have to pay us.
often shared service, we do mutual aid with our paid partners.
Right.
So that happens anyway. The
Yeah.
shared services usually come into effect like Montclair
And Glen Ridge,
took
yeah.
over Glen Ridge because Glen Ridge was volunteer. They couldn't service. Unfortunately, contrary to what everyone thinks, volunteerism is down and down and down. So people aren't available, and we have a mandate to provide fire, EMS, police to the community. So so do the volunteer communities. So if they can't staff an ambulance or a fire engine, they need to reach out for help. But that's why I said no. I mean, I'm part of the Essex County Chiefs Association, and they're all strong departments. Their volunteer departments are pretty strong. At least they come across that way. I don't see their books. I don't know how many volunteers they have, but they seem to be doing it. So, but to answer your question, it could be a conversation. It just hasn't happened yet.
Okay. So overall, you're still asking for $16,000 more in your operating budget, even though you're cutting down on the overtime?
No. We reduced the operating budget by 16,000. So we
you reduced-
gave a 15% cut for our operating, and then
And the 600,000 in overtime.
yeah.
He
Okay.
gave you the best
Yeah,
present.
certainly. Can I,
Gold star.
going forward, I never liked miscellaneous columns. It's like the junk drawer. Can you do away with that? There are three different miscellaneous columns in here.
Yeah, when we transition to Edmonds, we'll try to get rid of the miscellaneous. I agree with you. There's my favorite thing in an AFS is there's a thing called MRNA. It's miscellaneous revenue not anticipated. And you frequently see a miscellaneous revenue not anticipated / miscellaneous. So it's a double miscellaneous. So I agree on that.
Okay. You've done a great job cutting. I just want to ask a few more questions.
Sure.
The miscellaneous safety equipment. Last year you requested 11,000. This year you actually paid 1,200, and you're still asking for 5,000.
That's 3,181. So we did
Okay.
quite a bit of.
And again, I have to just say, and back to what Mr. Datiniak said earlier, unfortunately, first of all, these numbers are not completely accurate for us because, as I said, for lack of a better way of saying, we ran out of money in September. So we had to kind of find some money to cover things that we had to. I mean, we have, just like the police department, and they talked about their training, their firearms training. We have mandatory things that have to happen, whether you guys all may say, well, I don't understand why that has to happen. Well, I didn't make this state law that says it has to happen. So, but there are certain things. So often that happens. And if there's no money, I have to go to the CFO and say, listen, we have to do this training, and they can.
So we ran on a temporary budget until October when the 2024 budget was adopted. So that's what we mean by there was no money left because it was a temporary budget.
But back to your question about why is it 1230? A lot of the sub accounts are not, and that's what I think we're hoping to change. Some of them aren't even worded correctly because we just kind of put the round peg in the square hole and try to make it fit. And sometimes when one sub account has money, we take money from that one, or we don't, you know what I'm saying? And back to the bottom line,
Yeah.
as long as the bottom line is where it should be.
So
We're working on that.
we do get a lot of bills from you on janitorial supplies. Why is that so high?
Well, we maintain 5 firehouses. So and we run EMS, which means we wash things more than most people would wash things. We decon things. There's toilet paper. We have 91
there.
people that
24/7 going to the
that
bathroom.
live 24. I mean, it's not I really don't have an answer. I can't, people aren't taking it home if that's, it's what we go through. We utilize you might know it as like Ecolab, but we use State Chemical. It's the same, they're dispensing units.
Right.
So and it's actually to try to save money because everything's in concentrate, as opposed to buying Fantastic. We buy it in concentrate in a machine, you put a dial and it fills up a spray bottle. That's part of the janitorial supplies, but that's everything from truck wash to,
You guys are cleaning your own trucks.
we're cleaning our own trucks.
Houses,
And again, it's five fire stations. I'm sure if we all looked at our own houses where we have a few people live there, we probably have $1,500 in or $2,000 in janitorial supplies just for our little houses with a few people. Remember, these are firehouses. They live there for 24 hours. So, like I would disagree with that. I think the number is actually, to me, it's low. I compared to like what my family spends in my own house. So
Finally, just one question. You're fully onboarded now. So do you still have a lot of ongoing training and education?
absolutely that, we were at 30,000 for a lot of years. Regardless of whenever I would come in, I would ask for additional for the new trainees.
Mhm.
We have mandatory live burn once a year. It should be twice a year. It's once a year. That wipes out about 10 grand, right? Just from that one training exercise. But we train throughout the whole year. Now, the upside to this year, and this is part of the reason that I'm able to say that Mr. Datiniak, we could drop it a little bit, is we received a grant last year, a training grant from Assistance to Firefighters. It's a FEMA grant, and it was for training programs. And what we did was we applied for some of the things we would normally do anyway. And now it was paid for through the grant. So that's for 18 months starting the beginning of this year. So that's the performance period of the grant.
Did that
So-
come through our grant writer?
It did,
Yeah.
with my help.
Okay. And you're going to continue to send good grants like that over?
We always try, you know, we're at least in I can't speak for everyone else, but our success is our, whatever that expression is. Sometimes they don't deem us as needy as maybe we all think we are.
Mhm.
We have a lot of communities, some communities to the east of us that maybe present with more of a need. So that's how they make those determinations as well. Because I think I've written some good grants that we get denied on. So
Mhm.
we'll keep trying.
Councilwoman?
Mhm.
Kathleen?
Thank you.
I thought you said one more question. I didn't want to step on. Okay.
Yeah, me neither. You're good? So I have two items that are not these pages that I would assume would be for you, but we're not going over them tonight. One would be fire hydrants, who, is
That's
that you?
It's kind of us.
So
Yeah.
I see you decreased it, our decision was made, it was 850, 690, 650 was spent last year. And so that was decreased to 725.
That's the American Water.
This American, New Jersey American Water could
Okay, so
rent the hydrants
You
from
go
them.
with that
Yeah.
number,
Mhm.
you're, okay.
Again,
Can't
less-
be-
We don't really have a choice.
less of a cushion, but you know, we'll be able to pay our bills to American Water for the hydrants.
Okay. But we can't squeeze any more out of there?
No,
Yeah,
no,
okay.
this is based on the monthly amount, the average monthly amount, and then projected out over the 12 months.
Okay, and then the other was, once 18, the 090 medical transport billing service. You might have tapped onto it, earlier. It was budgeted at 312,222. Last year, you actually spent 145,264. And so you brought that down to 185. So you're good with that. That's another solid number you're okay with?
The Coronas,
Oh, billing.
Yeah.
Yeah, revenue guard Coronas.
Yeah.
So that's our third party billing
Yeah.
that we have a contract with. So
You're
that's,
okay with that number too?
yeah. Yeah, again, it's less of a cushion, but it's a more realistic figure for what we're paying out.
Okay. All right. Thank you for decreasing those.
You done?
I am good. Thank you.
Wanted to ask you about prospective equipment needs in terms of the vehicles that you use. You obviously have some of the most expensive in the township, so.
yeah, so we currently have on order an engine, which was put in the current production time at any fire engine factory is 4 years.
Jeez.
We were able to purchase one that had what they call a slot, meaning it was a production slot at the factory, which kind of that gets you about 8 months or 9 months into the process. So at least it's something, it's still a custom built truck, and we need custom built, if that's the next question, because of our hills. These engines don't come with motors that are big enough for our hills. So we always have to get something. We're not although we've purchased things off the shelf, if you will, they don't work with our hills. So we do have one on order. I won't lie, I'm not happy with it's taking longer than they promised, because we haven't even done a pre-build on it, meaning we haven't they know it was spec'd out, but there's still a pre-build that you kind of tweak everything out before it goes to production. We haven't even done that yet. So, quite frankly, depending on when I retire, I may not see that engine, but I thought that I would. So anyway, that's on order. I'd love to ask you for another fire engine in capital this year. But we have one on order, and I kind of can read all of your minds that maybe that would be a reach. We do need an ambulance. Now, I threw out what options, maybe there are other options, but we do need an ambulance. Our ambulances, as I mentioned in our call volume, they get taxed more than anything else. They don't last, I think what the length of a service life of an ambulance is, they say 7, 8 years, something like that.
Yeah, not here.
No, I'm
Um,
going to say it's about 4 maximum.
Again,
Just
dealing
what
with the hills and how heavy they are.
And we
Yeah.
run 5,000 EMS calls. Our ambulances get taxed. Councilwoman Scarpa, you rode in one, and I doubt you got to look at it, but if you did, you'd probably see that they get taxed. So that's going to be my big ask, if you will, in capital. There's other smaller things, but I think that's what you were kind of getting at.
What's the cost for that?
An ambulance is about 250,000.
How long does that take? As long as the fire truck?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I hate to use this expression, but we've become a little bit of a Band-Aid department, and that's not
That's
good for
funny
anybody.
Ambulance.
Exactly. With the ambulances and the engines. And it's very frustrating. People say, well, you could repair it, just repair it. Well, that's a whole nother area. When we send something out to have an alternator done, it's out for 4 or 5 months. It's because all the facilities that repair are backed up. And having it out of service it's just very, well, yeah, but you could fix it for a lot less than you buy a new one. We're an emergency services department. It needs to be ready now. So that's very frustrating. People talked about, and it's a buzz out there about electric fire engines, and they exist. And everything is green, and the concept kind of sounds cool, but we can't work out the bugs. Like, there are bugs. We're not ready for that. I think it's kind of a cool concept, but they're not ready for prime time. So it's our things need to work when they need to work. And we're down to 2 reserves. One of them is in 1989. You probably see it. It's that yellow-green one that drives around. And we bought that as a Band-Aid 7 or 8 years ago. 7 years ago. And she's not going to last very much longer. So we're obviously the new engine is going to help a lot. That's going to be our new engine 3 in St. Cloud. But we probably won't see it for at least another year. So.
And to that point, so, purchasing the ambulance now versus taking your rigs out for these EMS calls, it's got to be more stress on the vehicles by them doing so many calls versus an ambulance.
Are you, I don't think I understand what you're asking.
Rigs going out for an EMS call.
If it breaks down, you mean? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Like,
I mean,
it's
happened
yeah.
a lot. Like we've gone out of we get to St. Barnabas, you come out, it doesn't start. And it has to be towed from the bay at St. Barnabas. I mean, that's happened probably a dozen times. That it's out for a month, and then it gets fixed. And then, I mean, we have reserves, so we kind of juggle around a lot. But again, back to what we do, it's not the nature of our business. We're the constant state of readiness is the statement, and often we're not in a constant state of readiness, and it has nothing to do with us. It's the equipment just doesn't, and there's not enough people to fix them. The company that we use primarily, we have a contract with a vendor, Fire and Safety Services. They try to get out as fast as they can to fix like minor hose repairs, that kind of thing. But anything that is substantial, and our fleet is aging, so often it's substantial. And they're all custom, fire engines are custom made. It's not like taking your Camry to the Toyota dealership and having them, it doesn't work like that. So,
Got it.
I want to ask you the same question I asked the police department. How many company cars does your department have?
Two. I have
Yourself
one,
and
and the administrative deputy has one. I mean, I'll answer it. It's, I don't know if this is an answer, but every career fire chief and every career police chief in the state of New Jersey has an unmarked vehicle. The majority of fire departments, a deputy chief, whether it's a fire official or an administrative deputy, also has. Montclair has both of their deputies have take-home vehicles. They're as Chief Keir said, they're unmarked, but they have lights and sirens in them, so they're emergency response vehicles. But I'm just saying that because it's not an uncommon thing for emergency services to have those vehicles
now, who is,
for specific
who
personnel.
was the other one who has it?
Administrative deputy.
Administrative?
The equivalent of Chief Keir
Oh, okay.
or Chief
So you're
Beulah
deputy.
to me
Okay,
is the deputy that works with me. That's one.
okay. So just an overall question, is there any way to rein in some of the costs for gas that we are paying for all of these?
So, I mean,
vehicles?
I do have 24-hour access like they said, because
Right.
I could be anywhere. Do I take that vehicle anywhere? Absolutely not. I'll be very honest with you. If I go to a party where I know I'm going to have a drink, I would never take that vehicle. So, and I'm sure they didn't say it, but I'm sure they're the exact same way. So it doesn't go everywhere. We use another vehicle. I will either use one of our other cars. So, but if I'm traveling, if I go to a meeting in South Jersey, of course I take the vehicle. I don't know if that answers your question, but again, in theory, it doesn't. I use this example. We had in 2019, we had the accident on 280, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Mhm.
We had almost two of our guys almost died on that, and one was in a coma for 4 months. I happened to be on vacation. I mean, we all take vacation. It was the middle of the summer. That's how I got to the hospital, and I was lights and sirens from down the shore up. Not everything is that dramatic, but it happens. That's my job, to be able to respond from anywhere. Again, it's as far as reining in, I'm very conscious of where I take the car, what maybe I put 7,000 miles maybe on it in a year. So does that kind of answer?
I'm just looking at this as an overall issue for all of our cars, since they're being used for daily, wherever you are, you're going to be responding. So you may be at the supermarket. So, is there some way that as a municipality, we can help rein in some of the gas charges, because we're basically always filling up your tank? And I realize that we need to have you ready, so your tank always has to be filled, but is there any way that we can
but you don't
kind of
need to 80
figure that out?
people. It goes to the chief of the department. And as I
Right.
said, it's again, I understand where you're coming from, but it's not that's like saying, can we take more patrol off the road? I mean, you could, but that's not part of the plan. So I don't know how to answer your question.
It's really a question for the CFO to figure out how we can figure out maybe a mileage, I understand, but maybe a mileage budget, considering that most of the time the vehicle is not being used for emergency response.
Okay. I mean,
It's something just I'm
I
putting out
understand.
there to,
I mean,
as a way
most
we
of
could
the
save
time, a
money.
police cruiser is not being used for emergency
Exactly,
response.
not just for you.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I guess we're in the business of what if,
Mhm,
right? Unfortunately.
mhm.
An F-18, most of the time it's not flying in combat, but they cost billions of dollars, these things, right? It's a what if.
Risk management.
Absolutely. And we say it all the time. How much risk are you willing to take? Maybe not as much. Maybe it depends on one's appetite for it, I guess.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Dutiniak, what else is on the menu tonight?
So we have the municipal clerk and tax collector. Those are the two departments we have left.
Sorry, the municipal clerk and,
Municipal clerk and tax collector.
oh, the tax collector.
Is Mr. Biondi supposed to go?
No.
No,
Oh. Here for the fun. God bless you.
You can stay there.
Hi.
Madam Clerk, are you going to change hats right here in front of us?
I am. Would you like me to sit here or would you like me to sit over there?
Wherever you feel most comfortable with.
is it easier to answer questions if you sat here or?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I just mean to see everyone. Nah,
Get in the
it's
hot
up to you, yeah.
Did we get another, is it a new
Yep.
write-up
Oh,
for?
actually, nothing changed.
Nothing changed?
Nothing changed, but I still put it in the packet. Um,
No. Quite literally.
so the Madam Clerk needs no introduction because she's always up there, but
You're all.
here's our municipal clerk, Karen Carnavale.
Well,
We're on page 18 of the packet I gave,
I have an old one and it's page 19.
Okay, that's tax.
Oh, sorry, do you want to
No.
talk about the department and?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you're all familiar with the clerk's office. We obviously are secretary to the council and we have two staff members, myself and Dina Zinsi, who is the deputy clerk and was hired in February. She's doing outstanding. Very happy with her work. So she's she picks up very quickly. She's ready, willing, and able, which is really a comfort to me. She's wonderful with the public when they come to the counter or on the phone. So we work very well together. Very pleased with her. And, I basically, you can ask me your questions and
Just to add, there's a significant number of Oprah requests that the
Yes.
department handles.
I have some.
Numbers, yeah. Just a couple.
Yeah, just a couple. Oprah is very tedious and time consuming. I literally over the years have lost two people in my office because of Oprah, being so overwhelming for them. Dina is handling it at the moment, but in order to properly train her, this may not be the year in the budget, but it would be extremely helpful to have, at the very least, a part-time person, maybe even 3 days a week, 5 hours a day to assist with that. So that she can learn other aspects and we have time to, work together. So she put together a historical data. In 2022, there were 1,623 requests. 2023, 1,596. 2024, 1,508. And in 2025 through today, 776 requests. These requests are, some of them are voluminous in nature, asking for body worn cameras. We used to get a lot of, and we still do, building permit requests and such, but they seem to be getting more complicated. We work very closely with the legal department because there are a lot of legal factors. The Oprah law is tricky. So we do a weekly call with the legal department to go through a chart of Oprah requests that are a little more difficult than a simple building permit request. There's a lot of legal mandates that we have to follow, and it's very stressful. So, and between her and I, we do handle it. She takes on the bulk of it, and then I take care of the other responsibilities in the office. She has picked up on a lot of things, which is wonderful, but because of Oprah, there's not a lot of time for her to do other responsibilities, and therefore it's going to affect her, learning on the job. So, as I said, maybe not this year, but hopefully next year, we can come back and get a part-time person. I'm actually thinking about maybe asking for an intern over the summer so that I can work with her more closely and get her familiar with other aspects of the clerk's office. We have an election coming up in a few weeks. The clerk's office oversees the election. We work closely with the county. They're very, very helpful. And, there's long hours that we put into that.
So
Not to mention council meetings.
Yes, yes, and our lovely council meetings, of course, yes.
So, we spoke about asking the departments to cut the 15% from their OE budgets. With the clerk's budget, the OE budget is essentially an elections budget. So there's really no room to make cuts, because non-election ask is about $700. And, so, we respectfully, leave our budget request at the $38,142. You could see last year the clerk used 99% of her budget. So there really is no room for cuts in this OE budget. Again, it's mostly entirely the municipal election.
It is. Yeah, it's the primary election. So last year, the primary election, we were charged by the county $41,059.11. That total will go up this year. It goes up a little bit every year. So, and we can go line by line if you like, and I can speak to whatever questions you have.
You're saying the county charges you
Yeah,
for the
because
elections?
Yes, they send out all the ballots, postage, they oversee the poll workers. There's a lot of things that go into an election.
So-
Years ago, we had a municipal election that cost the township, because we did everything, cost the township $80,000. So we decided to go have the municipal election move to the November election, and that was a savings of $80,000, which is wonderful. But the primary election, they do, charge for certain things. So yeah, they do bill the township for that.
So, not on that, but it says here that there's a $5,000 overtime built into this. So are both of you
I get no
salaried?
overtime, I get no comp time. My salary is my salary.
Okay. And-
Dina, when she covers a budget hearing, she comes in for election day. We have to be in at 5:15 in the morning. We usually don't get out until 10 o'clock at night. She will get paid for that. If she covers a council meeting, she will get paid for that.
Is that in her contract?
It's not a contractual thing. It's just the nature of her position. She's supervised, she's not management. So, IRS regulations would say, she should receive overtime.
Right,
So that's why she gets overtime.
right.
And how much has she used so far?
Right now, she's covered one council meeting for me and one budget hearing. I don't foresee it becoming like on a regular basis. In all the years that I have been here, I believe that was the first time I ever had anybody cover for me. Because people in the past were not comfortable with it. One refused to do it. So when you, yeah,
Nobody wants to come to our council.
right.
I'm I'm appalled.
Yeah, so when you hire a deputy clerk, in my absence, they take over my role. So, they,
Yeah, it's a lot.
What is the hourly rate?
I don't know
Whatever
her
her
hourly
salary
rate
is.
off the top of my head.
So we've spent $315.22 in overtime so far, and that was to cover that
Right,
the hearing, right? The hearing.
correct. And the council meeting. Right.
So we can figure that out, what the hourly rate is.
Oh,
You take her salary, right?
No, she's just at 320.
yeah, we could
We
we
figure
could
out-
email you the hourly. Actually, it was in I think we sent the packet. I know I sent it to the business administrator, payrolls 1 through 11, along with the year to dates, and it has all the hourly and salary amounts and the hourly rates.
Right.
So I'll make sure that the BA forwards that to you, but I did give him that pack. It's like 12 different Excels, and it's all the salary information I promised from last week. It took us a couple days because we had to remove confidential information, voluntary deductions, all this sort of stuff, but we put that packet together. So Dina's within that packet. And then just on the salary and wage side, Ms. Planis retired. So she's prorated. So a portion of her salary obviously was paid in 2025. So that's included in the 2025 budgeted amount. And then when Dina started, so she's prorated as well.
Okay.
So there is some slippage that is sitting there waiting to be used elsewhere?
No, there's no slippage because we prorated. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we were exact to how much June Ms. Planis was paid, and then to when Dina actually started. So
When did Dina start?
February 10th.
Yeah, 16.11% prorated. For June.
for June, yeah.
So her salary will be about $10,000 more than what we're looking at?
Oh, you're talking about no.
The deputy municipal clerk will be higher than what we're looking at. This is prorated.
No. Good question.
As soon as we get.
Yeah.
We have salaries. Oh, here it is. No.
No, actually, I take that back. We prorated June. We didn't
Yeah,
we didn't prorate Dina.
That's a yearly salary.
that is her
So then
salary.
that's-
Yeah,
so
the
it actually should-
72,162 is the full year. So there is slippage here. I apologize,
Mhm.
Council President.
So can you reflect that in the budget?
We can go ahead and prorate that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry, Councilwoman, are you
Okay.
finished?
Yes.
Yes, please.
So Councilwoman's point with the 5,000 for the overtime, I could see where she's looking to grab money from there. But are you using that overtime from last year to pay because you only budgeted for the county 38? Or what is
So
it,
the
30?
postage
37?
piece gets charged against the postage account. So it was 41, but the postage is charged against a different line item.
So then are you all right for this year, just going down to 2,500 in overtime? is how much more overtime?
The overtime is for the employee.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, we're halfway through the year by the time this gets done. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
If
we-
you're not taking it for the elections, I don't know.
Well, we have two elections coming up, one in June, one in November. So, and she would be paid from 5:15 in the morning until 10 at night.
Oh, for her overtime?
Right. So, but it would be 5:15 to 8:30 and then 4:30 to 10 would be the overtime hours. She would get a regular base salary in between.
Oh, oops.
And then for any reason you're out, whether you.
Yes, I
plan it
will
or
be out.
not, she would have to cover.
I'll be out in August for
Uh,
one meeting, for our meeting. I'll be on vacation that week.
All right, well, I'll let you think about it. If there's anything you
Yeah.
can pull from that.
Yeah. Okay.
But we'll pick up at least like something from the retirement.
Okay.
Because
Are-
what else you have coming up? Anything else that you need overtime with her?
Not that I'm aware of right now, no.
Those two elections. and-
Right, the two elections, the
One of-
vacation.
And maybe one of our meetings if, well, so that's a question. So if we have, obviously we have these budget meetings, there's other meetings.
Mhm.
If you're not available, are you comfortable with her covering?
Absolutely. Yeah. I
you
think
can't
from the
make it-
feedback I got, she did very well.
I'm just thinking of our schedule too, if when you
Right.
need her for.
I mean, I don't foresee myself not being available at this
Yeah.
point, unless, my daughter goes into labor and I gotta be there. So, but other than that, I'm pretty diligent about coming,
No.
to the meetings. Sometimes you get sick, and I mean, I've covered a meeting from home when I was sick at one point. So,
So I think we can look at the $5,000 number and we can project out based on, her hourly rate. It was 37 something dollars and,
right, but you also have to remember that the county, that line item is gonna go up this year.
Right.
There was another concern that I had with, where was it? I don't know if it was codification. Yeah, codification. So we budget $5,100 for codifications. However, we spent $12,600 last year codifying our code. So would I take away from that line item? No, based on something like that, because, the money has to come from somewhere.
Wait, why was that so expensive?
I'm sorry?
Why? Oh, because of all the ordinances we passed.
the code
Correct,
updates.
right,
Yeah, you guys.
right.
wanna
And
go-
then,
I was not on a roll.
yeah. So then you have advertising. So the request is 12,500. Last year we spent
Oh, that was last-
5,000.
that was last year.
So, it kind of all evens out.
Oh, and it's
Just-
been a busy, yeah, it's been a busy 2025.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm gonna ask you not now, but do you have enough this year budgeted based on last year's?
Well, we did a lot. I mean, it's already almost June.
Oh, we did all we did all
The
those.
fees
the
last year,
fees,
all the
Yeah.
that's
ordinances.
We changed everything, yeah.
Yes, yes,
Right.
yes, 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 yes,
That
yes.
was a big
Yes,
chunk
okay,
of it. So, yeah, I don't foresee that happening. So,
yeah, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for the
Board
clerk?
comments?
I just
Yeah.
want, just one comment. I just was doing a little bit of research. It seems like there could be some grants available to help you with Oprah, to Oprah compliance.
Oh,
So you may want to just start looking into that.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
send that to our grant writers. That would be great.
Yeah, we'll forward the information our way because
Okay.
The more help.
we definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
the next 5 minutes, we're gonna take a break, so you can send them information.
Thank you
Get
so
on.
much for all you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. So,
And
Okay.
good pick with your new hire, very, very, very good,
yeah, she's good. Very, very happy with her.
very efficient.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, please come back to the dais and
What are your,
do your day job. Yes.
Hi.
are we taking a break?
I don't know. I think Mr. Tiniak is putting on his tax collector hat. Is that what's actually going
Yeah,
on?
Yes.
Yeah, it's usually a telephone booth, if
I-
anybody knows,
I
if
think
anybody
this,
remembers what a telephone booth was.
Joyce, you need a break? You need a break? Yeah, you take, well,
Okay.
take 2 minutes.
We'll take a 5-minute break, please. And we will return at 8:18.
Mr. Fagan,
Mr. Orange, there is nothing wrong with your computer. We are on break and the microphones are on mute. We will be returning shortly. Thank you for your cooperation and patience. Thank you for your patience, West Orange. We are resuming the budget hearing. And at this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to our council president.
Welcome back, West Orange. We are all waiting with bated breath to hear what Mr. Detiniak is going to throw at us next. Please.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to present the tax collector budget. We're going to start with the other expenses, and I've come up with the tax collector of a cut of $25,000. We were asking for $120,000, but we feel we can cut $25,000. That $25,000 is for was previously used for consultants that we don't need to use anymore. Now that we're sort of fully staffed and we have, full-time finance people and
Best, yeah.
somebody there because we are making a conversion to Edmunds, which I talked about. So the Edmunds conversion is essentially two systems. It's the finance super suite package, and then it's also a tax and utility separate package. So the tax and utility upgrade will come out of, and I know you're not going to like this, Councilwoman Rudin, the miscellaneous. That's the biggest budgeted figure there. Moving forward, it's going to be a software subscription sub-account item. And we'll also break out professional services if we need to use a third-party professional service in the future. So we're going to have a sort of larger miscellaneous budget for this year. And then in 2026, that's going to go down because this year includes the first year subscription to the Edmunds tax package and the implementation cost. So.
Yes, Councilwoman.
So stay on the top of the Edmunds. Do they come with their package training
Yes.
included in their fee?
Yes, so all of our employees will be trained. And even after so you can either do a remote training, Zoom training, or they'll come in and they'll set up in the conference room or wherever we want them to set up. I'm requiring them to come in because I just think it's better to have sort of hands-on. And then there's support, obviously, throughout the time that you have the product, along with there's different, they have these different, like user groups throughout the year, and they try to move them throughout New Jersey because they're sort of like a southern-based company, Jersey Shore-based company, but they try to have user groups up here so that our tax collector could attend them, and they're free of charge, and they do trainings and tips and tricks and all that sort of stuff.
Awesome. And then will they help us set up if we decide to go or could figure out how to redo the sewer bill?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So
The
we brought that up.
system?
Yeah, we brought that up to Edmunds right from the beginning. Once we engaged them in, preliminary talks, this was one of the topics that we covered. They have experience implementing American Water into their own system so that they can charge based on consumption. So they've done it in the past, and that's going to be part of the implementation for us for 2026.
My last question for you is regards on the revenue side. How are we with tax collection so far this year?
I don't have the tax collection percentage figure, but traditionally, we are in the high 98s. So we have an excellent tax collection percentage. Then, of course, we utilize the tax sale, which is mandated by the state. So we don't really get left with municipal liens, meaning we sell all the delinquent taxes. We utilize a traditional tax sale. So the tax sale that we're going to hold this year for 2025 is going to be selling 2024 delinquent taxes. Some communities utilize an accelerated tax sale where you actually would sell, at the end of November, beginning of December, you'd sell the current year taxes. It's a very punitive way of doing things. We do the traditional tax sale.
So all indications are you're on track for your norm.
Yeah, we have an excellent collection percentage. Yes.
And online, one more. And then just remembering conversations from last year. So you're fully staffed with this department. You're good to go.
Correct. So I don't want to bring up the individual names, but
No.
so we did bring in a new person,
Yeah.
a township resident. She has been absolutely tremendous. It gives us the capability, to speak with our Spanish-speaking residents, which we did not have in the department, which was shocking because, we get the most people come to the tax window of really any of the departments. We have a steady stream of taxpayers and, it's every day. So we now have that capability. Just recently, in our purchasing department, we had a resignation. We lost, a really qualified, great employee. And now we've actually moved our new tax employee over to purchasing. She's being cross-trained in purchasing, doing a tremendous job. So we're allocating her now to that purchasing department to fill that void. But we're going to be able to flex her over to the tax department during the quarterly tax season. So she's been really terrific and we're able to utilize her in both departments. So.
Okay, and the salary there for keyboard clerk one, is that just a partial salary?
So it's a 50-50. So she's 50-50 for,
It's quite low.
yeah, she's 50-50 for tax and then 50-50 for, 50% for purchasing. Mhm.
Okay, so this is a 50% here and the other 50 is in purchasing. Awesome.
But, I can't say enough good things about her.
Oh, that's
Picked it up extremely quickly. Again, having the bilingual, ability has been so helpful for us, and not only just for tax office. If we have someone, at the mayor's office, that speaks Spanish, she's been terrific with that. So, but yeah, back to the collector's budget. We're going to see a decrease for 25, and again, we're going to see an even greater decrease for 2026. Because again, we had that implementation piece to our 2025 Edmonds project. And again, we're relying less on third-party consultants, not just in the collector's office, but when we talk the treasurer's department, my department, we're not relying on the O'Connor Davies and some of the third parties anymore. So.
Thank you. One other question, but it's after this section.
Mhm.
Thank you, Council President
Certainly.
and Mr. Titania.
Anyone else? Questions or comments?
Yes, where are you advertising your tax sales?
So we do an online tax sale. So we advertise online, but we also, I believe, advertise in the paper. And it's required. I will say it's like the naughty list. And it's supposed to be encouragement for people because we put the list out very far in advance of the sale. And again, this is all state statute. We can't not have a tax sale. The state says you need to have a tax sale so that you recoup your delinquent taxes. So we do put it out in the paper. We advertise it, on the board. And again, this is an electronic sale. This is something that companies with a lot of capital are typically the investors in these sales. It's not so much individuals anymore. There's some out there, you see the same names, but these are institutional investors because of the amount of capital that you have to put down.
So for the online, are you paying?
We do not pay for any of the tax sale. We pay for the advertising, but
The advertising?
we don't have to pay for the online component now. The bidders pay a fee to participate.
So
and
do you
then
make
I-
anything back when the
Oh.
bidders?
So we benefit tremendously because let's say we have $3 million in unpaid 2024 taxes. And then tack on another $200,000 in interest. What happens at the tax sale is we say, we're selling $3,200,000 worth of taxes, and it lists all the block and lots and the values of the properties and everything. And then through the electronic bid process, these companies or individuals, if they can do it, will say, okay, I'll give you that and I'll bid 18%. So they start at 18% and then they bid it down. So say, okay, I'll give you the 3 million. Now it's not a one sale, it's property by property. but let's just say it's one property and it's $10,000 they owe us. They'll say, okay, I'll give you $10,000 and 18%. Then the other person says, I'll give you $10,000 and 5%. And then somebody says, I'll give you $10,000, 0%, but I'll give you $20,000 in premium. So now we get our delinquent taxes. They give us the $10,000. Then we get the premium, and that sits in account and just generates interest for us. It's not our money, it's their money, but it's going to sit in an account and generate interest. Then what happens is 3 days later, this investor gets the certificate. Now, we've been paid for the 2024 taxes, right? Through the bid process. What they're going to do, because now they have the lien certificate, they're going to go and pay the 2025 taxes because those are delinquent too. So if you're delinquent in 24, you're delinquent in 25. So now we're getting our 2025 current year taxes paid. So now it's helping out our current year. So we benefit tremendously from the tax sale. It is tough on the taxpayer. There's no denying that. I mean, I didn't create the system. The township didn't create the system. This is the state. But it's tough on the taxpayer because now they're going to owe, all this money plus 18% interest. And they then pay that goes to the lien holder. So just to explain this process is we've sold this tax lien. Now this institutional investor has paid us for 24. Then they went ahead and paid the 25 taxes. So those are called the subsequents. They're owed 18% on that subsequent. If the taxpayer wants to redeem the lien, we tell them, they make a request to us, we, the tax collector, tells them, okay, you owe $24,500. They would pay us, and then we pay the investor. So it goes to us, and then we make that payment to them. And then we would pay their premium back. That's how the tax sale process works. So
A good investment.
if you have the capital, it's a great investment. And then if you're an investor and it's not redeemed within 2 years, you could foreclose on a property.
And get
So
the property.
You could get a $400,000 or $500,000 property, maybe for an investment of $100,000. So. Any other questions? The maintenance and repairs too, that's for our copier and then we have like check depositing machines too that occasionally need to be repaired or fixed. So that's our maintenance and repairs.
So your big item is really the admins.
It's the admins, it's also printing the bills. So we have 14,600 line items. So we're printing tax bills, we're printing the sewer bills. So this year we're looking to do the sewer bills for September 1st to not load up on 8/1 because our third quarter's due on 8/1. So, we're gonna have a month in between. So again, you're not getting everything for 8/1.
So you're sending out two different big mailings, right?
Right. So we do the tax bills, and we do sewer bills.
Can you do it together?
We'll try to do the sewer and tax bills together. We're just gonna make the due date different, for the sewer bills.
Right, but wouldn't that save a lot of money?
I mean, it's
You're just doing one mailing instead of.
not, it's not on the same form, so.
For users.
So I think it's still the same postcard and, I mean, I'll talk to the collector, but I don't think we're gonna save on that. It's gotta be the two separate.
And to your point, Councilwoman, I'm sorry to jump in.
Oh, please.
Can we make sure the mayor prepares a letter with any pertinent information to go in with that third quarter tax bill? Because whatever we could do, you have that letter with, any pertinent information that we want to get to all the property owners, whether it's the health department, whether it's the tree or any new ordinances we put out the stormwater, whatever we could put out in a letter so we could save on postage and notify our residents of, all that we've been doing.
No, I agree. It's,
Think
it's,
that would help?
it's the best opportunity to get that information out.
Yeah.
We absolutely will pass that along to the
Yeah,
mayor.
save on a mailing, a whole mailing.
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity for that. I totally agree.
How about getting an advertiser?
Um, oh, well, yeah, we
Going to
did,
every single household.
right,
in-
we
in
did talk about
Township.
that for the recreation.
Right. What about for this too?
I don't think we can advertise on a tax bill. I really don't know. I've never seen it done. I'll talk to the collector and see if there is a statute. You know, I don't know if that vendor wants to, I mean, if that advertiser wants to be tied to a tax bill. Yeah, I would probably say like, I'm definitely not going to this guy, but, it's a good idea. I've never seen it done. But we will find out. We will find out and see if there is anything that precludes us from doing that to offset that cost.
It's not just, yeah, maybe a home equity lender or something.
That's,
I mean, talk about
Not a bad
targeted
idea.
market.
that's not a bad idea, actually. We will definitely find out. We'll call Keith Bonke. He's the Tax Collector Association's attorney, and if anybody's going to have that answer, it would be him.
Yeah, and we've already got relationships with a bunch of depositories. We could just ask for their home lending mortgage department and
Agreed?
talk to them. You could wear that hat too.
Spare time.
Yes, before they start toppling over. We've got
I
someone-
think I'm already there.
Any more questions, comments?
Not on that department, but thank you.
I think that's all we have.
Okay.
I know, but I just have.
Okay.
For the next time.
Yes.
Whenever we do a question, is that okay, Council?
Yes,
President?
please.
Okay, so in the back of the budget book that we have, and I know, and I really appreciate Mr. Detiniak, because obviously it may be a little tough for those out watching and for those in the audience, they're getting the new handouts, but what's been happening is like just spending, just really, doubling down on this budget and keep working it has been tremendous help for us, especially tonight. It went so much, I felt like things went so much quicker because you came here with the recommendations and sitting with the department heads again. So with all that being said, just for the items, the last couple pages in the back of book, and I know you're not prepared to talk about anything else because you're continuing this process, but I had requested, I know the Madam Clerk might have sent it out today. If all my colleagues could get it every year, I request it. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But did the public library, did Mr. Cubey send you his itemized line by line budget?
I did send it.
Oh, you did send, oh, we did get it. Okay, good. I didn't see the emails late this afternoon. Okay, that's awesome. And then if you could go to their page real quick on 120. I'm just trying to remember from last year what we did. I know, libraries and, benefits from the assessments. So that's why we see that increase, and that's a mandatory increase
Right.
on line 200. We have no say over that because that's the formula went up
Mhm.
and good for them.
Councilman, please excuse me for interrupting
Sure.
you. What page?
120,
Okay.
120 in the booklet. It's the last page on oh, you don't have the printout.
Yeah, the digital version, the version 2.
Oh, it's
only goes
different?
under 12 pages.
So it's section,
Doesn't matter. I
one
can't
oh
read it.
oh seven. I'll show you that. So I just want to ask you, so line 210, library special request, they had asked for funding.
Looking at the library.
Yeah, the library budget, page. They had asked for 50,000 last year, and it looks like they're asking again, so we'll
Correct.
need to know what that request is. And then line 211, the 700,000.
Mhm.
To my recollection, last year, and they spent 306, that was to get the library interior up and running, so we're gonna have to put out for capital
So
expenses or
it's really for the operating of 10 Rooney.
I'm sorry, it's operating what?
The operation of 10 Rooney.
the building
Yeah,
itself,
building itself.
not per se the library, they're just the building. Like why, that should not be on that page, that should be separated out for, and I know you're changing this antiquated system we have, but wouldn't that be, because that is a asset of the township.
Right.
Like, I would love to see a whole, where my old school board had a whole buildings and grounds section.
So
where
we do,
this would
we do have a
be-
buildings and grounds section. So you've asked me the question and it's on the record and I will be honest with you. It was done this way because the library budget appropriation is outside of the cap. So it was kept outside of the appropriation cap. So that, you were able to appropriate that much to take care of 10 Rooney, because if you put it inside cap, you'd have an appropriation cap issue. That's why it's there.
Okay,
So,
moving forward, you leave it, you.
so
move it?
I have to make the argument that it's for the operations of the library, but it's really, you'd have to allocate it, right? Because we
Yeah.
have a tenant there.
Yes,
Um,
that was my very next.
and so, I've had conversations with the auditor about this. We may end up reallocating, just figuring out, maybe using square footage of the total building and what the tenant takes and what the library takes and what our new tenant is taking, and moving that to buildings and grounds. So, we had a conversation about it a while ago. I got to revisit it with them. But
Did the new tenant move in yet? The temporary tenant that we.
they are moving in soon. We paid, and we've cleaned out the place, but I think they're moving June 1st. So
June 1st, and then I'll follow Mr. Keough. Last year we had our 4th of July event up there, but aren't they taking a piece of the parking lot too with some vehicles of theirs, or?
I think like a small
Okay,
part of the lot. I don't think it would interfere with
his event.
his event. No.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, so I was just looking at this whole situation and just needed a recap for my memory's sake of where we're at, and just be, prepared obviously to explain the need for the 50, unless you know now and you could tell us. And
I don't know the need for the 50, because again, the third of a mil went up.
yeah,
So, just by the levy itself, I shouldn't say the library has more money to work with. But I think the Madam Clerk sent, his itemized request, which
okay,
I didn't. You did, okay.
okay. And this 700, you haven't touched. I know you need that for the building. You don't, you do, you don't.
So it's for the operation of 10 Rooney. 10 Rooney used to be a little bit more expensive because we had the company that was sort of being a property manager. We've gotten out of that contract and, we're doing these things ourselves, but we still have bills associated with 10 Rooney.
Yeah, because I see we only spent 306 last year. So I guess if we could have a better explanation of what 10 Rooney cost us and in regards to expenses and whatnot. I mean, last year, that building cost us 306 and change.
Right.
And you anticipate, because we're still budgeted at 700,000 for this year. What do you anticipate us spending on it to maintain it this year?
We're not prepared. I'm not prepared to talk about it right now.
Okay, but you will though, just.
We will, yeah. We'll lay out a plan and, we were actually that was gonna be part of, I think, Deputy Director Reynolds was gonna help us, sort of talk about the maintenance side of things. Cause again, I mean, we really would probably have that in the regular buildings and grounds. But because it's traditionally been in that account and, or at least the last couple of years it's been in that account, we left it in for 25. So.
And what my brain's trying to get around is because, that bond was, at the last meeting, talking about the needs, like out of what this is budgeted for, was any of that money anticipated to go for anything in that project? And again, like.
No, it was operating, but I'll let Director Reynolds talk more
Sure.
about the operations of that building and, what it needs and.
Okay,
all
just
that.
trying to get a clear picture, because
The total property, I
I'm-
should
I'm a
say,
big
yeah.
proponent, we need to get it, finalized and get it moving, but where is all this coming from? And did the bond need to be as large as it did? Can we take from here and to support the building and all that? So that's what I'm looking for within this
Understood.
conversation. I'm not asking you to answer it tonight, but that is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Scarpa.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Mr. Detiniak, could we get a detailed income and expense report for the library and for Rock Spring?
Well, that was my next.
So the library is an independent, separate entity. And they have an audit, so we can provide the council with that audit, to give you that P and L and balance sheet and all that. So, I'll see. I don't know if they have, I don't think they have their 2024 audit done, but, we'll provide the most recent audit.
Right.
And as far as
Just to
Rock
get
Spring.
an idea of what this 700K goes for, what our real expenses are on that building.
Well,
You know.
that would be on our side of things. And we can provide the detail last year and this year of what we're spending on, for the building maintenance.
Okay.
For Rock Spring, we will send over the latest P and L,
Yeah.
that comes from Rock Spring, because they do provide us with the P and L. It's their P and L, but it details out what we were paid and what goes into the 3% capital and all that, so.
Yeah,
we'll
we
send
were
that.
looking for a little more detail than what they've provided us in the past. It's really more their expenses, but we want to really know the true cost of what it's costing us.
Right, so we would have to sort of like overlay, I guess, then our own expenses, related to the debt, obviously the note, the interest on that
Right.
note,
Capital.
the capital improvements that we have out there,
Great.
and then, trying to think of anything else that would really get allocated there, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
need to figure that
great.
out
Thank you.
quick.
I think we've said it, it's not making money, but you essentially paid for, to not have the housing that would have ended up there. That's sort of the cost of doing business there. But
Well, my question is, what do we need to do to get that restaurant going? Because it's really never open. I think we could do better in terms of getting some revenue out of there.
I went to the grill. I did go to the grill, and the food was good. I mean, it's grill food. It's golf grill food, but it was pretty good. Excellent.
What
turkey
hours are they
club.
open now? Are they open for dinner?
They are not, they open, I think, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then, I think they're maybe open till 6 or 6. It's not
Right,
really
they're
like a dinner
primarily
type
serving the
thing.
golfers, which is a real loss for us.
Yeah. No, I
No,
agree.
they're really not operating like a restaurant, and we need to see that happen.
Yeah, no, it is just a grill.
We
Yeah.
lost revenue on it.
It's lost revenue, and I think it's something we need to look at very in a
The
detailed
turkey
way.
club was good though. It was
Oh,
very,
good. When I go, I'm gonna go check it out.
yeah.
Maybe I'll get that.
Councilwoman, you done?
I'm done, thanks.
Okay. As long as we're doing a little housekeeping, I just have a couple other questions. How is it going with the additional research for our debt service management plan?
So I engaged our financial advisor, so he's looked over our plan, and he's providing me with some comments. I should have them next week, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you need a more detailed request, there are multiple items where we as a council, along with you and perhaps our advisor, can look at the situation and see if there's any efficiencies we can do in terms of canceling a debt or not doing a project that we've already borrowed for, that sort of thing. And I think once we do that, then we can put together a pretty credible plan.
Right, so what they're looking at is, how realistic my sort of long-term debt management plan is, sort of projecting out, because we have so many outstanding notes. And, I have a plan where we're paying down the notes with budget appropriations. And then I have a plan where we're paying some down and bonding on others. They're helping me with that, sort of figuring out that sweet spot. Because it's $55 million in notes. I know some of it is tied to 55 Lakeside and tied to the Green Acres, but if you're doing sort of a pay down with budget money and using the debt cliffs, it still keeps us at like a very high level of debt service. And my plan with that grows debt service by 3%. That might not be palatable for this council, to say 2025 is the base year and it just keeps growing by 3%, instead of saying like, when can we take our foot off the gas on the debt service and see some savings? So that's what they're helping me with, figuring that side of things out, because they can model it better than I can. And so they said they'll have comments next week.
Councilwoman Scarpa, I'll just, I know that you want to speak. I just want to throw out a couple of questions here first, and then I'll get to you, okay?
Great, thank you.
Do you have any sort of idea about a timeline on when the council might see a proposal or a draft?
So I'm gonna get the comments from the FA and try to integrate those and send out a draft for you guys to look at.
Okay.
Maybe in a couple weeks.
And just so you know, I know you're terribly busy with all of this stuff. The fact that we get stuff the day, as we walk into for a workshop, I think just demonstrates how much you're trying to do all at one time. So I'm not putting any pressure. I just wanted to sort of get a better idea of when we might take a look at it. I also wanted to ask you if perhaps at a future workshop meeting, you could talk a little bit about all of the impact that the reval has had. We've just brought it up about the library.
Right.
And also, I want to look at some of the other things that have been impacted. Any formula that's related to our tax base is something we look at. Now, I think we're impacted by the West Orange open space tax levy.
Right.
And is the county tax levy also impacted?
So the county, when
And I
they,
don't want you to start talking.
I don't go too deep into it, but it probably is. But they equalize us, so they bring us up to that 100% when they do their calculation. But I mean, Jacob would have a much clearer understanding of this. There probably is, a case of like, maybe had we just been equalized, we wouldn't have been as high. So now that we're at 100%, they're going to take the NVT that we're at now. So, our increase, while not huge, may have been smaller if we didn't have the reval hitting, because maybe them equalizing us would have brought us up to a lower taxable level. So that it's a good question for Jacob. For the open space, so yes, because we have the ordinance, you'd have to bring it down to maybe half a penny, because that's essentially what it did, is like it doubled. So you'd have to bring it down to half a penny to maintain the same $500-something thousand increase to the municipal space funds every year.
And just part of the reason we're talking about all of the great reductions on the budget tonight and maybe at the open space tax is that we reduce the burden on taxpayers.
Sure.
In this year. All
Yeah.
that stuff flows to the bottom line. It means we tax less.
I mean, whatever the levy is called.
Everybody,
Yeah.
why we're focusing on this inside baseball.
I mean, it all comes from the taxpayer. So the NVT, I'm sure, has something to do with the school funding formula, because they're looking at the value of the community and then they're looking at the ability to pay. So I think it's a 1 or 2 year lag on the state tax returns. So West Orange is an affluent town. They're looking at those state tax returns as saying, this community has the ability to pay. And now it's, this community is a highly valued community. So will it have an effect on the Board of Education's state aid in the future? Yes, but of course they play with the formula, by adjusting what they want to get the desired outcome. But I mean, those are two factors in that calculation for state aid.
I'm sorry, were you talking?
No, I'm
Sorry.
just like adding to the conversation.
okay.
Yeah,
Please, I missed it.
worried-
Please
No,
repeat.
I'm saying I'm worried about the school board
yeah,
because
yeah.
of that. It's, they don't get the aid, yeah.
So two more quick questions. It looks like in the budget that our tax base, our net taxable, went up this year. And I thought that the state said you can't have an increase in your tax base in the year of a revow.
No,
But it looked-
this is what the NVT is. It hits
understand,
this
but
year,
it's
yeah.
supposed to be the equivalent. And in the budget, it says it goes up by, I don't know, maybe 75 basis points or something. The increase was something like that. I'll email you about it.
Yeah,
Okay. And the last thing has nothing to do with the revow, but I was looking for revenue that we might be getting from the new affordable housing, the senior housing next door to us. And I couldn't find it. So
Yeah.
when you get a chance, would you just?
sure, yeah, we just don't have it anticipated, but we can get the number, yeah.
Okay, but should that be an additional line item in the budget?
So right now it would go into Myrna. If we could potentially put it into anticipated and reduce, if we can anticipate, yeah.
Okay. Great. That's all the questions I had. Before you start talking,
Yeah, let's, yeah.
Councilwoman Scarpa, finally get to you.
Ye-
Thank you for your
Oh,
patience.
that's all right. Thanks. Real quick, I'm not comfortable with increasing debt. I want to see us go in the other direction. So my question was, we had talked last time about looking at all the projects that we had borrowed for and seeing which ones of those we need to do and which ones we can maybe put off for a future date. I think you were going to get like a list
Yes,
of those
so-
together.
so
When can
my-
we look at that?
My assistant comptroller was working on that. She unfortunately had a death overseas.
Oh.
So she's actually in Colombia right now. She's coming back here on Wednesday. And
Okay.
we can restart that project, but she is working on that for me.
How does it look? Does it look like there's some things there we can maybe put off till we have,
So
we're in
I
a better.
mean, we have unspent projects because that's what we're going to really target is those unspent projects.
Right.
Because obviously if we've spent and we bonded, there's really not an opportunity to cancel. So you're going to have to look at unspent and make a decision as a governing body. So I can give you all of the open projects, but ultimately that's a decision that is going to have to be made up here.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Councilwoman. Now, please.
Just another request too. So, I know we're tight for meetings for the next time. And I may only have one more left in me because I have traveling that I'm doing and a wedding and craziness in June. Is it possible to do DPW next and
Yeah, so
go over those buildings?
DPW, I think, is going to be our biggest. We made it through police and fire, which I thought would take more time, but DPW is going to take a lot of time. So we'll include, excuse me, all of the Director Reynolds, different departments, road, shade tree, all that, and then we'll include 10 Rooney in there, that library piece.
Awesome.
And vehicle fleet maintenance, we're gonna tackle a lot of different pieces of the budget just with Mr. Reynolds.
And I'm hoping he has a little gift for us because he has all his new hires. And I'm hoping his overtime is reviewed before you come back to us with his new section.
Yeah,
of
so
the
we're
budget.
looking at everybody again. We're even looking at the departments that have already come before you and made some cuts, and nothing is off the table. So.
Okay, that's awesome. And then the revenue, are you going to do that at the end?
Yeah, so
Just
that'll
make sure we
that'll
get
be
it.
sort of my presentation where we're sort of summarizing things and we're looking at the actual amount to be raised after all is said and done. And then, of course, there's going to be your recommendations or cuts and then we'll have to revise that amount to be raised after that too. So.
All right, awesome. All right,
No,
thank you.
when I do the revenue, we'll go through the lines and we'll give methodology for it and year to dates and all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah,
that'll take some time.
oh, yeah, no, 'cause especially like to Councilwoman Scarpa's point, Rock Spring has us a little, concerned. So we want to make sure we're getting all the revenue out of that entity as possible. So, and also the number at Stone Hill, I expected that to have been higher this year. You don't have
So
to answer me now, but you could,
I mean, I will say quickly, and I don't know if it was really ever conveyed to the governing body, is there's a redevelopment area bond associated with Stone Hill. So I have to net out the debt service payments because we have to make debt service payments on that RAB. So part of that revenue that comes in, part of that annual service charge is pledged to pay back the debt on the redevelopment area bond. So that's a net figure.
On this salary list that you gave out,
Yes.
am I reading this correctly that Mr. Smeraldo is set for almost $100,000 increase?
So
you have to go by the position, Councilwoman.
No, I understand. He was the assistant business administrator and it says for business administrator.
that's the salary per the ordinance for 2025.
For which ordinance?
For the approved ordinance for the unrepresented, so the management. So it was the ordinance that was passed in January of 2025. For the 1/1/2025 line for business administrator, that's the max salary.
The maximum salary.
Yes. Yes, that's the maximum salary.
Okay, so why would somebody who's just walking into that position get the maximum salary?
So I don't want to get too much into personnel. That's a decision that's made by the administration, just like every other payroll
Okay.
and hiring issue.
Is that
So-
approved by the council?
Yes.
It was approved when you approved the ordinance for that particular title and step. But again, I don't want to get too much into personnel issues like.
So that's the maximum step for that position. That doesn't mean that person would receive that. That has to be negotiated.
And I'm not sure that whole issue is not part of the negotiations that might occur between the mayor and the council
Yeah.
relating to the litigation.
Yes, so we probably should not be
There's a lot
speaking
of
about it.
Yeah. Shouldn't be a discussion
Yeah.
right now.
If Jack Burke was here, maybe he would say, don't talk about that. So,
Okay.
Okay,
Um,
Councilwoman's, I'm sorry, are you
Yeah,
still talking?
I would just like to retread on the car issue one more time. Can you provide us with a full list of who's getting cars, what each person's Easy Pass bill has been, what each person's gas bill has been, and what each person's insurance bill is? And I'd also like to open a discussion on creating some sort of allowance for these cars and an overview of what is going on with all of these cars.
so we made the request today because we have the detailed Easy Pass bills, but they just have the transmitter numbers. So I mean, I can see all the times that they've been used and where they've been used and all that, but I don't have like sort of the legend or key to say this transmitter number is with this car or so, we've asked the PD to provide that because they maintain that record. We are putting that list together and we talked to 3 individuals that are part of that. I'm also checking to see if anybody else, non-public safety
Right.
has a take-home vehicle.
And may I ask, for the Easy Pass, why shouldn't that just be reimbursed? instead of just giving somebody an
Yeah,
easy
expense,
pass.
an expense.
Because it's, I see what you mean. So, right, because if you're driving,
I understand.
oh, yeah,
I'm trying to
I see what you mean. So,
Can I ask a question? What's contractual? Because these.
so these vehicles are in employment contracts, yes. Yes, so all of the individuals that came before you this evening have employment contracts and I believe, and then we'll go back and we can supply the contracts. Council can see that obviously. But I believe that they do speak about a vehicle being provided.
Does it stipulate insurance, easy pass, and all?
It's a township owned
Yes.
vehicle, so we insure it. Easy pass. That's not for me to decide because as Chief Vecchio said, he was down the shore and now he's racing back up. Now you could say, maybe he shouldn't use Easy Pass to get to the shore. But he should use it coming back up, for the gentleman that were hit on 280. But I don't think this is really a question for me.
I'm just
but
asking
we'll-
for the data so that we can.
Yeah, like I said, we provide that. So we'll give you the legend for the Easy Pass. We'll give you the bills. The gas cards, they said that they can pull. So each individual has a gas card, to use at our pump. So we can pull that data to see, hopefully it's for their vehicles and not, if they fill up like another township owned vehicle, that would sort of throw things off, but we could try to cross-reference the license plates and all that sort of stuff.
But wouldn't it be appropriate to consider even an allowance for the mileage instead of an open checkbook?
I think that would be difficult to monitor and the fact is that they are 24/7. If there's a shooting at 3 o'clock in the morning on Easter Sunday or something like that, like they're here. I don't know
Which
why I
is
said
why
Easter
it
Sunday,
always
but
makes sense
um,
because they're using it for personal use at other times.
You know,
When they're
Council-
using it for municipal work, there should be a generous allowance, but I just want to see what the numbers are and then we can discuss.
so
it.
I will say in previous experience for non-public safety personnel, we did figure out, we prorated, based on the distance between home and work and, we did calculations so that when we applied the fringe benefit, for, the time that it was used for a personal commute, not for, running around town and all that. I've just never done it for public safety because we never had to. So, I will say, I will take it back to the administration and sort of
This
give
is
your
what we
ideas
did
to them.
At public
Could we
safety,
just-
it's
could we just-
overall.
Councilwoman, could you just wait for him to finish speaking before you ask the next question? You ask great questions and I understand. I can't hear his answer.
I'm sorry.
Please.
So I will take it back to the administration. Obviously, we're going to provide you with the information that you want. I will bring up the fact that you've asked for an allowance, that would cover the personal usage of the vehicle and I will see what they say. I cannot promise anything, but I will bring it back to Mr. Smeraldo and have a discussion about it. So.
Thank you.
I think Councilwoman Scarpa is next. Councilwoman?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Mr. Detiniak to sit down with our recreation department and take a look at the $250,000, $250,000 of part-time workers and that Mulligan stew. Because I don't think anybody other than that department can figure that out. And I would like to see us make some significant reductions in that area.
So we did provide, and I apologize, I did send it to Mr. Smeraldo, maybe he hasn't forwarded it yet. We did provide through payroll 11, every individual that's been paid. That includes the rec part-timers. So, you'll have the individual names, amounts, hours, all that sort of stuff, rates and everything. So hopefully that sort of will give you an idea of
N-
what, who
Not
they're
really.
using
That
and,
doesn't, we don't know how important it is to staff 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, or 5 people at an event. That's something that only the director can do. And I think that's what we need to be looking at. I think we need to make sure we're using our resources efficiently.
I agree. I will defer to Director Kehoe. He's been doing this very long time. I'll have the conversation with him. If he feels, I think if he felt that there was room for more efficiency, or if he didn't need extra part-timers, I think he would have taken care of that himself. But, I will take the direction from the council and I will go back, just as I took the 15% from the council. And I will go back and speak to Mr. Keough and see if there is an opportunity before we get too far into the year, to look at that part-time, request.
Great. I would really appreciate that. I think we could probably find some economies of scale there.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman.
No, just to go back to the prior conversation in regards to the cars, again, I think the contract's going to tell us what we have to provide and what we can ask administration to reevaluate. And because I do like the idea of giving them an allowance, but again, I don't know if that's contractual or not with the contracts that we are signed off.
Yeah, so I'll look back at the contracts as well and, but again, I'll reiterate what Chief Vecchio said. This is common practice in the state of New Jersey. Every police chief and fire chief has a vehicle they take home and, so we're not really, this is nothing like out of the norm. But I respect you're looking out for the taxpayers and saying that, it should be used for the purposes of the public safety. And so I'll come back to Mr. Smeralda with that. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Scarpa.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how many cars do we own that employees use, the exact number. I'm not as concerned about the chief and the fire as much as the other cars. What kind of a fleet do we have? I would like to see an exact number.
Yeah, so Mr. Allegrino can provide that. We have hundreds of cars.
Here we go.
Police patrol vehicles, the radio cars. We have fire vehicles, we have heavy equipment, pickup trucks. We have beat up vehicles that we use for code enforcement and building inspection and for the health department. We have vans. I mean, we have a pretty substantial fleet. We can send that to the council, a whole listing of each vehicle, make, model, year. We can send the mileage, we have all that.
Yeah, I'd like to know like what department they're being used for. Each and
Yeah,
every
no,
department, yeah.
we do have that list. They do maintain
Okay.
that fleet, detail. Mhm.
I'd like to look at that and see if there are any economies of scale we could realize there.
Councilwoman Scarpa, you finished?
Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
No?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't have a definitive date for our next
That's-
workshop. So please watch the homepage of the township website for that date, please.
I could send out an email tomorrow to the council asking what dates they have available and maybe we can figure something out.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for visiting with us. And please, if you want to send us any comments or questions, council@westorange.org works well. Thank you, West Orange. Good night.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
The workshop is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Fagan.